This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay, I think we are at the bewitching hour. All right, everybody. Good evening. Calling to order the meeting of the Southampton Select Board for Tuesday, January 17th at 6 o'clock. We have a quorum present, so let us stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, thank you. So we have, I know Reni's on her way, so we'll get started anyway. So I hope everybody had a good beginning to the new year. I can't believe we're 2 weeks into 2023 already. Time is flying too fast here. So let us start with any open time for the public. Is anybody here for that tonight? Yeah, Cindy, please. Yep.
Hi, how are you, Rini?
Hi, Cindy Palmer, 71 Glendale Road. I'm here just to give the Select Board and anyone else listening a little update about what's happening with the Open Space Committee. I'm chairperson of the Open Space Committee. This is an interim. This is not a complete report. I know I report to you on a regular basis. But at the last report, I mentioned that we were discussing the idea of working in conjunction with Kestrel Land Trust to pursue the possibility of applying for a landscape partnership grant, which would mean conserving a large number of acres of contiguous property contiguous with other conserved properties. Since that time, three things have happened. It's going very well. That's one thing. We're making contact with landowners, and it's really, we've gotten a moderately positive response, and we're moving forward on that. The second thing is the guidelines for the Massachusetts Landscape Partnership Grant had changed for 2023. For one thing, prior to this, it was to be filed by May something, and now that's changed to April something. So it's the deadline is moved up by a month. However, Kestrel's really going to be the lead writer on this and pulling together the many details that are required for applying for this. The second thing is it's no longer required to be 500 contiguous acres. It's 250 minimal contiguous acres. But we're looking at really, we have some landowners of Southampton properties that are interested, and it will exceed 250 acres as the way it looks right now. The third thing quickly to report is, in order to bring together landowners, the Open Space Committee voted to pursue a third neighborhood outreach grant. We'd done it in 2 previous years. We had a whole series of meetings that at the Congregational Church, I think 2018, I think it was. And then the year before last, we had meetings, pandemic safe meetings at Conant Park, as well as a hike. And this time, we're sort of bringing up the whole process. We have been awarded a grant, a neighborhood outreach grant. And this time we're going to hold it's going to be 2 programs, exactly the same thing up at Glendale Ridge Winery, which is, we're really fortunate to have that beautiful property here in our town. And it will be, the invitations will go out to, the landowners that are going to help us meet the criteria that are necessary for this landscape partnership grant. And I'm reporting to you now because those gatherings are going to occur early February. So coming right along, but the committee's worked really hard. We're putting together a really lovely invitation that includes a color picture of, oh, by the way, the whole project is called the Mountain Waters Project. So we've got a couple of members of our committee that are really terrific amateur photographers, took a beautiful picture for the front of the invitation, and we're moving towards having those printed and go out hopefully within the next 5 or 6 days. that's my report. Is there any questions to me about that?
Yeah,
Congratulations, that's
congrats, yeah.
awesome.
No, that's great. No, and especially from the grant committee point of view, I'm very happy that Kestrel's taking the lead here, writing the grant on this one. So, yeah, that's great. No, and good that you don't have maybe quite as heavy a lift in terms of the number of acres that you have to qualify. So that's great. So
That doesn't seem to be the problem at all.
no, that's great, though.
We're doing well
No,
on that.
good. Great.
Great, Cindy.
Glad to hear it. Okay. Anybody else for open time for the public? If not, we have no public hearings, no presentations tonight, and so we have reports to the select board, and basically tonight is school night. So let's go with Norris, and Aliza, would you like to go first?
Hello.
Hi there.
For those of you that don't know me, I'm Aliza Pluta. I'm the principal at Norris School, the very lucky principal to be at Norris School. And I'm happy to present this update to you. So about last year at this time, our enrollment was 476 students, and it's currently at 487. So that's good. We don't have any staffing issues other than we have a long-term substitute special ed position available right now because we have a teacher going on maternity leave for the rest of the school year. And then we also have a special ed paraprofessional position open for our neurodiverse program due to a resignation last week. Some of our curriculum and instruction things that are happening, our social emotional learning committee is focused on 3 things this year: to be kind, be responsible, and be safe. We had a school-wide assembly. We broke it up pre-K to 2 and 3 to 6 back in November to introduce what it means to be kind, and we were going to fill the buckets with kindness in December. So over a 2-week period, we earned about 387 kindness tickets that we gave out to students for being kind. When we caught them being kind, it was really great. They loved it. And we posted all those tickets outside the library in buckets on windows in the library, and the kids got to see it. Our next topic is going to be responsible, and we're planning our assemblies now. We will be teaching students what it looks like to be responsible, or what it is like to be responsible in different scenarios or situations, like what is it like to be responsible when you're in the cafeteria, in your classroom, with your homework, things like that. In math instruction, the district was awarded a grant to provide additional professional development and coaching to our teachers who teach math. And Mike Flynn, a math consultant and also a former Norris teacher, came and visited a couple times to do learning labs, which is preparing a lesson with teachers at a grade level, then going in and someone teaching the lesson, and then debriefing about what they saw in the lesson in order to catch some of the things that we're doing well and some things we need help with. We also had the coaches from our Bridges math curriculum come in and visit us about a week ago, and they just observed lessons that teachers were teaching in the Bridges math curriculum, and they gave feedback to myself and my vice principal about what they saw. They also will debrief with Kate Mesmer, our curriculum director, and then she will then meet with principals about what the next steps are, which has been great. This is our second year using Open Court reading program, which is based on the science of reading in all reading classes in grades K to 5. And we have found that since we have implemented the Hegarty program in grades K to 2, our students' phonological and phonemic awareness scores have improved significantly, and we have begun using that program in preschool classrooms as well. So at first, I think my preschool teachers were like, we don't want a program, we want to do what we do. But in preschool, the program is really about rhyming and songs, so that students start to learn that ing and, rhyming in words, and back to the basics of those nursery rhymes kind of thing, what gets them ready to listen to the phonemes and the phonemic awareness in order to become readers someday when they get to kindergarten and first grade. We have found that, we have Professional Development Day on Tuesday, November 8th, and most teachers and staff were off campus and participated in different activities through the Collaborative for Educational Services. Some groups remained at Norris to collaborate with colleagues on different curriculum topics. We are focused on attendance. This year, it seems that more students have been absent due to different viruses, not because they're away on vacations, but some are on vacation. But this year, we gave out 56 letters. Last year, I think there were only about 24 letters that went out for students that have 7 or more absences. So we're finding it really difficult this year. I know, and we're not the only ones, so I've heard that from other principals around. Our MCAS results, which I updated the school committee on, I'll just give you a brief. Our ELA scores were 38.1% proficient, which was 3% below the state, and 15% lower than the previous year, which is concerning. Our math was at 43.3% proficient, which is 4% better than the state, and 13% better than we did the year before. Science was at 61.8% proficient, which is 20% better than the state, but 12% lower than we did the previous year, and the only grade that takes science is grade 5. Some of my thoughts on MCAS and why our scores are the way they are, not in any particular order. Brand new reading curriculum in grades K to 5, and that curriculum was supposed to arrive in August of last year, and most materials we didn't have until November. So teachers were scrambling. And then we finally have interventions in math in grades K to 6. Maybe that it gives us a reason why our math scores are better than our ELA scores. In 2021, when the kids took the test, it was only one session for, so the fourth graders in this past spring in 2022 took MCAS for the first time in full. So when they were in third grade, they only took one session, and then last year they finally took the 2 sessions. Students were kept safely 4 to 6 feet apart for 2 years during the pandemic, where we were not doing small group reading together at the table with the teacher, and the teacher was wearing a mask. They weren't putting their heads together to solve problems on the carpet like we usually do because we were trying to be safe. Student attendance was much lower last year at 93.8% than in 2019, which was 96.1%. And let's see, 93.8. I think in 2021 it was 96.9. Our student growth in ELA in grade 5, I don't even know why I put, our student growth. Okay, so our student growth in ELA in grade 5 is at 54.1%, and the state was at 4, so it shows that we did make a lot of growth compared to the year before. And in math, it's 70.2%, and the state was at 20. And our grade 6 math is at 52.9%, and the state was at 3. So we're making a lot of growth, but our scores were still low. So we're trying to analyze that data and implement new things. The fun stuff, 5th grade went on a field trip to the Edward M. Kennedy Institute for U.S. Senate in Boston on November 15th. Our grade 5 students were able to participate in the process of voting on a bill, which was very cool for them. We participated in Walk to School Day in October, even though I forgot to tell Ed that we were coming.
It wasn't you that forgot to tell him.
Preschool Pi Day returned because during the pandemic we didn't have parents coming into the building. So this year we came back and celebrated Pi Day, which was the day before Thanksgiving, where everybody brings in pie that is safe for people to eat, and parents give permission. They're giving the pie actually to their students because there's no school that day, and they all come in. It was great, and they share that. And then K-1 classes visited Fletcher's Farm. A national park ranger visited our grade 6 classes after they were studying about national parks, and grade 3 visited the Springfield Science Museums in December. What we continue to work on is consistency in our approach and support with our neurodiverse students. So our new neurodiverse continuum of services is excellent, and we're happy to have the amount of staff that we have and the support that we have. But with that comes, are we all on the same page in our support for students? And we're continuously trying to fix that. We have reached out to a consultant that would be paid for with some of the ARPA money that we receive for professional development, and she is going to be working with staff from the whole program after school. Implementation of the open court reading and writing program, we continue to work on that implementation, and our social emotional supports, as I mentioned previously. We continue to look at safe routes to school grants, and I know I've been working with Chris, and it's been fantastic trying to find safe routes for students to come to school, to decrease the number of students getting in the car and getting in that pickup line, and safe crosswalks and new sidewalks would be great. And we also we're working on our Tier 1 and Tier 2 interventions for students. So what that means is working on differentiated instruction in the general ed classroom. And then students who come up on the interim assessment as needing more than that support go to the intervention teachers, which finally I have, a full staff of every student who needs an intervention is getting one, and hopefully we'll see better results on MCAS because of that. Does anybody have any questions?
Great. Anybody have any questions? Okay.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate getting updated. And I had 2 questions. One is I read in Principal Holtz's report about a safety assessment. It seems like that was a really helpful thing to do that's free. Is that something that could be done? or
It was
done?
conducted, yes. I'm sorry I didn't mention that. Some of it's been an executive session, so I'm afraid to share anything. But yes, we did have Scott Gove, who is trained, come and do a safety assessment at Norris, and he did give the results of that assessment to the school committee, and we're figuring out next steps.
Okay, good. And the second question is, how many students participate in the neurodiversity program in any level?
Ooh, let's see. Probably 12.
Yeah.
I'd have to think about it, but I think it's 12.
Thanks.
Okay, good. Anybody else?
Yes, I do have, just have 2 questions. The first one should be easy. In regards to the letter for absences, you said 7 or more. Is that out of a semester or a quarter?
That's from the beginning of the year until the beginning of January.
Okay. And my second question is, I believe I saw an email about the school becoming peanut and nut-free next year.
Yeah, we're going to be allergy aware.
Oh, allergy aware.
Yeah.
Could you explain a little bit more what that means?
So we just decided last week at the school committee meeting, there was no policy, so now it's just a procedure. So we're changing our procedure, and we are going to become allergy aware. So we're going to teach all students from preschool to 6th grade first from our school nurses what it's like when a child has an allergy to something. So there are so many different allergies that we can't be 100% safe just saying we're not free school. We're going to be aware of all allergies, and we're going to still not allow parents to send in foods made from home or foods bought at different stores. And we have, students have 504 plans if they have bee stings and we need to do something and have an EpiPen. And students have 504 plans if they have a milk allergy or a nut allergy and how we respond to that. So we're doing additional training with all cafeteria staff. The cafeteria, our kitchen will still remain nut-free. They will not be serving anything that is made from a facility that also produces peanuts, or they will not be serving peanut butter. So we're going to see what that looks like on a case-by-case basis with those 15 families that have life-threatening allergies to either milk or peanuts or what it might be. Yeah, so the first messaging went out.
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Yes,
Okay,
I did. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
I think the key there is originally the school committee was going to change this procedure February 1st.
Oh, okay.
And then after listening, giving the administration 30 days to put a plan together and listening to that, I think there are 14 that are peanut-related allergies, and they need to have 14 504 meetings. And it's just administratively, it's going to take time.
Yeah.
It made more sense to start it with the fresh school year.
So it'll still be a policy, or sorry, it'll still be a procedure, or you'll move it to a policy
Well,
per se?
it's a
in the
procedure
new-
because there's a paragraph in the handbook. That's it.
Oh, okay,
So in September, that paragraph will disappear,
okay.
and then
Could be whatever.
there's nothing there,
Okay,
yeah.
Good. Well, it sounds like you've at least acknowledged some of the issues that parents are facing with their kids, and certainly what the teachers have to face too, if there's any kind of emergency in the classroom.
Right,
So,
right.
good.
Can I just
Appreciate it.
mention that
Yeah.
in the past, the statistics were that the majority of people that have an allergy at school where they need an EpiPen, it was someone with an unknown allergy.
Right.
So hopefully, there's the town or the school doctor or provider has provided a non-designated EpiPen.
We do have those.
Yeah, and the shelf life is really short, so they have to really be changed.
Yeah, our nurses are really good about checking those dates, making sure we have an adult and a child one, the 2 different sizes on hand all the time in case someone who has not been identified goes into anaphylaxis.
Standing orders to be able to get.
Yes, yep.
Great, very good. Okay, thank you. Thanks,
She has a
Lisa.
question, I don't know.
No, we're going to
Okay.
keep on going. Thank you. Lauren, please.
I know, but
All right, hi everybody. I'm Lauren Holtz. I'm the principal at Hampshire Regional High School. I included in my report a lot of exciting things that we've been doing so far this year. One of them that I'm really proud of is our parent education series. So we had our first one in December, and that was really about teaching kids and parents about executive skills and just executive functioning in general. We have our next one what is the date? This week, about anxiety. And so that's a huge issue that we see right now is mental health and anxiety. And so we're really excited to have Lynn Lyons coming for that. Next month, we have a presentation about social media and internet safety, because that's also something that comes up a lot with our teenagers. And then we are still working on scheduling something about substance use and abuse. primarily around vaping and alcohol, but also around other things. And hopefully that will be in the spring. Like Rini said, we did a safety audit in December, and we have not gotten that written report yet, but we are also working with the town of Westhampton, with the police chief and the fire chief, to conduct our own in-town assessment too. So hopefully we'll have a couple of reports and suggestions to go off of. We had a lot of students who participated in Western districts, and I've included in this paragraph the students from Southampton, so we were really proud of them and really excited for their successes. We have a really great music program. Athletics, so our winter sports season has kicked off. We have 143 students participating in a winter sport, and overall throughout the school year, last year we had 53% of our students participating in a JV or varsity sport, which is a pretty huge number. So we're very proud of that. At our last school committee meeting, our director of student activities, Jim Kelly, presented about our user fees for sports. So for the last at least 10 years, but we think it's longer, but we cannot find records of that. But at least for the last 10 years, we've charged $90 per sport per student. And so the most any kid would pay for the whole year would be $360. But we are shifting that to be $110 next year, and then $125 the year after that, really to keep up with the other local schools, most of whom are charging closer to $200 per sport, and also to address rising costs in every other sports-related item, including transportation, our MIAA fees, and so we're redoing that protocol for next year. A big issue we've had throughout last year and this year are our evening custodians. We've just been short-staffed. It's been really difficult to keep reliable staff, and so after going through a lot of different people, we decided to go out to bid and see what we could find for a cleaning company. So we have contracted with a cleaning company. We've gotten excellent feedback from teachers so far who have been frustrated with their rooms not being clean, and so they're very thrilled and excited about their clean floors right now. So that's gone really well so far. We have a bunch of upcoming events that I've already shared a few with you. This week we have a 5th and 6th grade parents night, which we've advertised with all of the elementary schools. Next month we have our 8th grade transition night. We like to really celebrate Teacher Appreciation Week, and then commencement is already scheduled as well. For our staffing, we had 19 new staff members here, and that sounds like a lot. We did have 5 retirements, which is a lot in 1 year. But we also had a lot of paras who went back to school, they're getting advanced degrees, and a few who became teachers. So we had a lot of openings, but for some really great reasons. I currently am posting for a couple of long-term sub positions because we will have 4 teachers on maternity leave for the rest of the year. So we have a lot of Hampshire regional babies coming, and so we'll have some coverage for the spring. And then some budget information. So last year we added 2 positions to our budget. One was an adjustment counselor to serve our students' mental health needs. And that has made just a huge impact in our middle school. So that position has really been a huge school altering position for us. It just has provided our middle school kids with so much more support. We also added an interventionist, which has been great for all of our kids. And so in terms of our current budget, we are right on track and where we would hope to be. As for next year, we're working on that currently, so I don't really have much of an update to share with you, except for the fact that I am not proposing any new positions or additions to the budget other than keeping things level service to keep our staffing the same. I think that's about it. Any questions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks. Questions? Yeah, I've got a couple. Go ahead, Rini. Yep.
I had 3 questions. I just wanted to say that I hope that it's really well advertised when it comes to sports user fees, that if people can't afford it, that that there is money to cover it, because I really feel that sometimes it's what makes people feel connected to a school, and it's great to see 53%, but I do worry that, that kids don't get a chance to play when the fees go up too high, and there's a lot of competition between schools to get students relative to athletics, and I just don't want to be in the position of, competing for kids just to have strong athletic performers. And I also support that we're not adding certain, like, football and hockey have traditionally cost the most amount of money because of the equipment and the number of kids, but I don't support having different fees for different sports. People shouldn't be penalized because of the sport that they happen to excel in. So I'm just glad to see all this, but I hope that it's really well advertised, that the user fees, that you can get some support for that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Sorry to cut you off. I didn't mention that before, but students who are on free or reduced lunch under our new fee structure will pay less next year than they do currently. So currently there's no free or reduced lunch fee built in or any waiver process. And so we've built all of those things in for next year. So I think it will be really great for families who need those resources, but you're right, it's all about how we advertise and communicate it.
Yeah, I wanted to mention about the substance use. You mentioned about alcohol and also about vaping, and I know there's a lot of communication and public awareness right now about vaping and the huge numbers of kids that are doing it. But also I read recently about kids ending up in the emergency room, a cluster of them because of eating cannabis gummies before school. And we've been trying to, and I think it's on the agenda for tonight, to discuss, I've been trying to encourage the Board of Health, the police department, and the schools to recognize that we do have money from the user agreement with our cannabis shop to actually do education around for anybody in town. So, maybe once we talk about it, we're going to create a structure for being able to apply for those funds or something. But right now we have money in the bank for substance education around cannabis. So I'm hoping somebody takes us up on that. And lastly, I'm just wondering how many kids are going to Westfield Voc, if you know this school year, and is someone keeping track of the transportation based on what program they're in?
I can look in a second. I don't know how many kids we have currently. It's not many. And I know that I can think of one kid that we transport there, and I don't know of any others. So it's definitely a very low number. And the kid that we do transport there, we transport through our own school van. And so we're not paying astronomical fees through Vanpool, which is really good.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anybody else? Joy, anything? No. John? I just have a question about just on the IT front. I know you'd had a person in place at one point in time, obviously, and with her departure, right? And also your business manager, right? You've had 2 key vacancies, right? And so how is that moving forward? And you mentioned an IT company, I assume, or a consultant that's kind of taken over, is that?
Yeah, so the district right now contracts with Suzor IT. And so they provide a technology director and services to all 5 of the schools. But then on top of that, Hampshire Regional High School, we pay a separate contract so that we can have an IT person in the building at all times, because just given our student numbers, the fact that every kid has a laptop, every staff member does, we really need a person in the building. And so we do pay for that.
And that comes from Suzor as well, or?
Yes, yep, so we contract out for that. So when Kim left as our tech director, shortly after that, my building-based person left as well. And so those were 2 vacancies to fill.
Yeah.
So we've been contracting through that.
And has your business manager been filled, or?
I'm going to let Deanna fill you guys in on that one.
All right.
Also, I do know what 90 times 3 is, and it's 270. So I said the wrong thing like 10 minutes ago, and I've been spinning my head. So
And I want to just make sure that I mentioned that when I mentioned about the cluster of kids that went to the emergency room, that was not from Hampshire Regional.
I did not assume so, but I appreciate you saying that.
That was what I read.
Yes.
It was another state, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, that's not our kids that I know of. Thank you.
Good clarification. All right, thank you very much, Lauren. All right, next, Deanna, please. Yeah.
Ed, I do have a PowerPoint,
Okay.
but I also make copies in case.
Okay, it might take us a minute to warm up the
I'll do
little
that.
projector here, so we'll see if we can. Some days it works easily, and other days it doesn't.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Deanna, maybe if you have an extra, I'll take one for Francine, who's not here tonight. If you have an extra, or I'll grab one. We'll make a copy, no problem. We're never quite sure. Oh, I see a green light. There we go. It's
Yeah, tell me,
got to find just the right spot in the room to
intention to do this in
keep that on
items.
somehow.
Oh, directions, why would we read those?
Because you're teachers.
We tell the kids, read everything on the page.
Great. Okay, where's the Wi-Fi? There it is. No, that's battery. Where's your browser, please?
It's Google Chrome. You want me to, tell me what you need me to find here. Usually just hit that and it works. Yeah, Firefox. Clearly needs to be updated.
There we go.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So now. Okay. Why didn't it pick up the internet when I picked on it? Wi-Fi. Southampton 5G.
Chris, did you say Francine needs a copy?
Sorry?
Does Francine need a copy?
I'd like to have one for her at some point, so.
I have one here.
Sure, yeah, no, we'll just make a copy, that's fine. Oh, you have an extra, I'm sorry. Yeah, perfect, got it. Thank you, yeah. Thank you very much.
You're very patient, Ed.
Huh?
You're very patient.
Because everybody's looking at me. If I was in my own office, the arrow would be turning blue right now. So whatever you would like for your nickname.
Just Deanna's good, D-I-A-N-A.
Come on. Doesn't like the capital T. code is 8905. Tap to present. Okay, we should be ready to pick on whatever you would like to bring up.
We hope.
I will, except it's not up there. Isn't good.
Well, you know what, I will just chat, and you
Okay.
guys have.
Why don't we
I
do that?
wanna
This
waste
might be a
your
challenge
time.
to,
Thank you very
unless we
much.
can get it the next minute or so, but let's,
Okay.
it could be your browser doesn't like our security system or something here too, who knows?
Come on. That's Firefox. What happened to the Chrome?
I can just talk through it.
Okay.
I get a little
It's not
copy,
gonna-
but Thank you.
It's not going to cooperate. So.
That's totally okay. Thank you,
Sorry about
though.
that, Deanna. All right. Well, you've given us a great handout for those of us that are here, so we much appreciate that. So we'll let you talk us through. Can you get back to your own screen, or are you?
Yeah, I know, sorry. No. Can I hold on to yours because I can't, I'm getting flustered now, so sorry. Okay, thank you very much for having me. I'm Deanna Bonneville, I am the superintendent for Hampshire
Maybe just move
Regional.
that chair and speak into the mic while he's, I don't know if people can hear you okay. That'd be great. Thank you.
There you go.
Hi, I'm Deanna Bonneville. I am the superintendent of schools for Hampshire Regional. And I thought this evening that I would give you a 5,000-foot view of our district, in particular Norris and the high school and how it relates to the town of Southampton. So whenever we are thinking about goals and budgeting and programming, it's really important to notice the 5-year enrollment trends. So on the sheet, I did list the trends for all of the schools, and I did highlight Norris and Hampshire Regional, and both are down 3 to 5% over the last 5 years, which that's normal. That's not a concern at all. It is interesting to note, though, Auntie Dunphy and West Hampton, while they're losing out on the same number of students that are no longer their students, it causes such a, thank you, it causes such a percentage change that Auntie Dunphy now is minus 13.6, and West Hampton's minus 13. So those are just numbers that you want to look at for, see where the trends go for the next 5 years, because that could really influence staffing and programming as well. So
Sorry,
after we-
the increased one is who? Is the 14 plus is,
That New Hingham.
oh, New Hingham,
Right.
of course, yeah.
And a large reason for that is they did have universal pre-K last year, so they really increased their populations as well. So when we're looking at special populations in Norris, it is important to note that we do have the highest special ed population in the district, and the lowest in the district for low-income populations, and you can see how it's changed from 2018 to 22. English language learners kind of stay steady under 2%, and low income has grown from 13.3 to 21%, and a lot of that is also unemployment, COVID, just costs of everything. People are losing their jobs. But the special ed number is important to note, and that could be for a variety of reasons. So 5 years ago, we were at 18.5, and last year we were at 27. So some of that could also be we didn't have the neurodiversity program in place. So teachers may have been referring students more often than not to special education. And we try to be helpful to meet every student's needs. And perhaps we have more students in there who technically should be in there. So we're going to work on reducing that so we're below the state average for that. Hampshire Regional, likewise, special education population is interesting to note that it's only gone from 19.3 to 21.2%, but that still is higher than the state average. I just wanted to point that out, just a little bit though. And then I thought it was important to notice when students leave our district, what's going on, where are they leaving? So you can see on the next page for school choice in, Norris school choice is 31 students in, and the high school 146. That's a huge number. And school choice out is 10 and 57 respectively. So it is interesting to note where those 10 students go. Local schools, Easthampton, Holyoke, charter schools is on the next page. So school choice out, if you look at Southampton over the last 5 years, and the first big number in the chart represents all of the students, and then I tried to break it down by K through 6 and 7 through 12, just to see if there was any kind of a pattern there, but our numbers are, we're at 34. So actually those numbers are better for us because 5 years ago we were at 42, and roughly we've stayed stable with having 10 to 12 students at the elementary level and 25 to 30 at the high school level choicing out.
Could I ask a question while we're going through this? Do any of these choice in, the 146, are they Worthington?
No. Because they're tuitioned in, which is different than choice in.
Okay.
They're not a trade school either, right? Those aren't trade school kids.
Right, correct. Homeschooling students from Southampton, it has increased from 10 5 years ago to 19. As you can see, during the pandemic, we were up to 44, but it's nice to know that we got many of those students back, and 14 of those are at the elementary level and 5 at the high school level. Charter numbers have remained stable. And over the last 5 years at Southampton, you look anywhere between 8 and 18. And that's everywhere from Chinese immersion, Hilltown schools, there's a Holyoke charter school. The next page is very important, and I bring this to your attention because in-district per pupil expenditures are important. So this number represents, I highlighted Norris and the high school. If the state average in 21 was 18,556, you can see where the high school is and where Norris is. And the high school is over close to $3,500 more per pupil, and yet Norris is $3,400 below per pupil costs. And I did, John, figure in the per pupil transportation costs, because you mentioned that last year, which is very important to note. And although, looking at the chart underneath, we have definitely improved from 12,000 all the way up to 15,000 for per pupil trends. It would still be nice to get that number up. So I expect that these numbers will be different next year because you so kindly gave us ARPA funds to help support the neurodiversity program by hiring a BCBA, a special ed teacher, and a paraprofessional for the program as well.
Can I just make a comment there? And it's more of an observation on my part as we head into budget session. I mean, as we know in the town, there's only so many school dollars that we have available, and you can see that where we fall short at Norris, we're sending it up to Hampshire Regional. Mm-hmm. I mean, so if we did a reallocation of dollars within our budgets, those numbers could come closer together. Not that we shouldn't overspend at the high school, but to meet the minimum spending at Norris.
And significantly, our cost per child at Norris is significantly less than any of the other primary schools in the district. by some $6,000, right?
Anyone read the article last week that this is no longer the measure to utilize?
No.
Where was that article?
I think I found it on Mass Live.
Oh,
But to your point there, Chris, I would say at the elementary level, all three of them, Westhampton, Williamsburg, or us, has to have a principal.
Right.
Because of our size, we have to have an AVP as well. But, so we have a lot of redundancy that we have to pick up. We can't get away with other schools only have one grade, one teacher, that's it. We have to have 3, 4.
Right.
And then the paras, it's scaled out of control.
well, it used to be much worse. The Hampshire Regional's done a great job lately in the last at least 3 to 4 years of really looking at how they can not drag Southampton into a 4 past, situation. So then we were forced to pull from somewhere, anywhere, to try to balance the budget. But I think that it's going to require a lot of education because people are going to look at enrollment numbers and then they're going to say, why are we going to significantly increase the budget when the enrollments haven't significantly changed and in some cases gone down? So I think it's a lot of education around how do these numbers come to be in the first place and what counts and what doesn't, like you said, transportation. I just think that it's going to require a lot of education and good decision-making around, how do we close that gap?
And as I say every time at the school committee meeting, this is a perfect example of why we should look to truly regionalize the entire system.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thanks, go ahead.
I know we already discussed MCAS scores, but I just wanted to give a brief overview. On the left-hand column, you can see where the state average is for all the grades. And I highlighted all the areas that were below state average, so you can see where we are. So at Norris, we're right around state average for 3rd grade English and math, but in 4th grade English and math, we are below the threshold, considerably so in math, 10 points. And 5th grade math is an issue, as well as grade 6 ELA. And that could be for a number of things. It could be the population that was tested. We're right in the middle of implementing the Bridges curriculum with professional development that we just had this summer and this fall. So we expect to see changes being implemented next year, as well as the professional development with the instructional coaching that Eliza spoke of as well. And at the high school as well, the greatest concern is grade 8. English and math, and we are addressing this by first coming up with MCAS improvement plans for the grades. We're working on that with Kate Mesmer, and we are implementing a new middle school math curriculum, and they are looking to realign the ELA curriculum and get a new curriculum for that as well. So I think they're really going to do a close item analysis just to see where the skills are lacking and what they can do to change instruction going forward.
And there's a recent article about potentially some changes with MCAS, I understand, possibly discussion around removing it as a graduation requirement.
They've been talking about that
Oh, we were talking
off and
about it
on
when
from
my kids were in school.
2003, but yeah.
I'm still talking about it.
Well, that would be wonderful. They gave back local control. So the rest of this document really looks at the district goals and how they play into the budget and school improvement plans and local budgets as well. I like that top, and I'm just going to read out loud for the people at home. So in order to foster a unified, cohesive, and inclusive district that provides quality educational experiences, we will strive for consistent implementation of aligned curricula, develop a shared understanding of effective teaching and learning, and set high expectations for all students in a safe and welcoming environment. That's really, if I had to sum it up in one sentence, what we're striving for, that kind of encompasses everything. So these four strategic objectives came from my report of entry findings that I presented last year. So the first big one is positive school culture. And online you can access the rest of the document. I just really focused on what we're paying attention to this year. Focusing on social emotional health of students and the whole child. Like Lauren said, we increased our counseling and the neurodiversity program at Norris, as well as increasing supports for teachers, professional development, and BCBA at Norris as well. We were audited for our English language curriculum and didn't fare so well, so we've been working with the collaborative to develop a new curriculum and implement all the recommendations that were provided to us from the state. We are planning on trying to unify all of our crisis teams throughout the district. Every school is kind of on a different page, and I have asked Stephanie Foss, our health coordinator, to kind of run with that so we can all have similar protocols in place. And we do practice scenarios. What would that look like? Just so we can kind of be on top of things. So anytime you're going to have a crisis, it's going to be chaotic, but at least we try to minimize the chaos wherever we can. And the last one for that is we don't have a district mission statement. So last year I discussed core values with all the staff. So this year we're going to revisit that, talk with students, discuss what their learning expectations are, and what their learning experiences have been, and how they would like to see their education in the future. So the next big objective is interdistrict partnerships and regional efficiency, and this really is just mostly streamlining processes and using each other in the district as a resource. And instead of being 5 separate entities, which we are, working together to see where we could save money, coming together, like if we all use the same contractors, or even leasing copiers, there's money to be saved there. So we are looking to look at restructuring central office, just that we've identified some gaps, like early childhood intervention. We'd like to make things easier for the principals and for the preschool teachers, so that's just one of the examples that we're trying to put in the mix as well. Last year, we worked quite a bit on the All Districts Committee with the 5-district agreement working group document, which pretty much 90% of it is about superintendent evaluation, hiring, firing, and discipline. And I have worked with the committee to come up with how my evaluation is going to look like this year. And whenever we just had a meeting the first week of January, we had a joint school committee meeting with all members to interview the business administrator. So we have offered the business administrator a position, and right now she's working at contracted services until she's ironed things out with her contract and with her place of employment. And we'd like to work collaboratively on the budget. Principals in the past have worked in silos, so we're trying to all come together to be transparent and really look at line analysis in all the documents and just comparing, and even like computer software in classrooms. Let's all see what we have, what works, what doesn't work, put our heads together. So the third and fourth one pertain to curriculum assessment and instruction. And we are working hard to really align our curriculum vertically and horizontally. And when I met with the principals to develop next year's calendar, we really talked about when we can get together as a K through 12, so teachers could meet not only pre-K with K, 1 and 2, but also like all third grade teachers and all the schools can meet together to really look at especially MCAS results, see where we did well across the board and see where we struggled and how we can implement that and make curricular changes. Implement Bridges math curriculum, Eliza already told you about. So formative assessment means how you're going to check students' work for understanding before you give them a quiz or a test. So like exit slips, randomly calling on students. We don't do enough of this within all the schools, so we're going to have some more professional development and try to really use that to inform instruction. So when you notice students aren't understanding, you don't give a test the next day. You go back and you reteach it until everybody understands, and then we move on.
So it's kind of a measure of the effectiveness of how things are being presented, is that it?
Yeah.
In a way?
Yeah. And it's usually it's ungraded, so homework could technically count as one. And we've been homeschool policy, we've updated our policy, and now we're looking to update our procedures and expectations. And although we only have, I think, under 25 students being homeschooled, we wanted to be very clear about our expectations. And Kate Mesmer did send out a letter in the beginning of December that elementary schools are on a trimester So we would like progress reports on a trimester. We don't want to wait till the end of May to find out how a student's doing. So if we can catch them early enough, we can put supports in place, offer special ed services or interventions. So I'll let you know how that is working out. And the last big objective is instruction, and that's how you teach. And right now, the administrators and I are taking a course through Research for Better Teaching. It's how to provide effective teacher feedback. So it's interesting, we actually have a class tomorrow for 7 hours in Northampton. So we're calibrating. What does good teaching look like? What are the look-fors? What does student engagement look like to you? Do you consider student engagement just because somebody's taking notes, or is it actively speaking and having conversations with one another? And we've been meeting regularly as an administrative team. I meet with the admin team every week. I alternate between principals and then everybody in central office and the principals together. So lately, right now, it's just been budget discussions. And if you were to click on this link, you could just see what we were doing for these 4 objectives over the next several years.
Great. Very good. Okay. Thank you. You did a great job without your PowerPoint even.
Thank you. And one other thing one other thing I did want to point out, so when we'll be discussing our budget shortly, we'll be starting work on the Southampton budget. Remember, transportation costs, we're paying 5% more than we were last year for transportation, and special ed out-of-district costs have risen 14%, and although the legislators are really arguing to bring that number down, that's still around $500,000 more. I mean, you get a good chunk of that back with circuit breaker, but you still, you can't go on the guarantee. And also technology, you'll notice we will be doing infrastructure, network infrastructures across all the districts. That hasn't been done in quite a while, and Suzer IT will be providing that work for free. Technology budgets will also be higher because we've been told we're kind of at a bare minimum with that, and right now they're working on a tech plan, a long-term tech plan for us, so we can see exactly if we need to replace something, what does it cost, what kind of a regular maintenance schedule can we get on for those things, so we don't end up with crashing and burning everything at once.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Okay. Thank you. Anybody have questions? No, thank you. This is very comprehensive, and thank you so much for all the
Thanks, Deanna.
the figures and facts and figures, and especially highlighting how Southampton fits in the whole mix here. This is just useful. Oftentimes we're in one meeting or another, and I know working with Eliza on some grants, Safe Routes to Schools thing, it's like, how many kids are here? So it's like, well, let me go look. So having a lot of information in one document is very, very helpful. So
I
thank
also
you.
think picking up the pieces after the pandemic
Yeah.
and getting kids back and
Right.
dealing with all the mental health concerns, I just want to say kudos to all of you.
Yeah. Okay, very good. All right, if no one has any other comments, thanks very much. Much appreciate the time and effort, and certainly all the preparation that went into everybody's report. So thank you very, very much. All right. Great. All right, let's move on. I think next we'll have Town Administrator report. Ed?
Sure. And I'd like to let you know that Novus has informed us that they have received our new server, which is good news, as originally they did not expect to receive it until the end of February. They have planned the server changeover along with the backup updates and cybersecurity enhancements for the month of March here in the town hall. We have been granted a Community Compact IT deadline extension from DOR until April 1st for them to complete this work. We have also been approved for 2 Community Compact Best Practices grants, one for our classification and compensation study in the amount of $24,000, and a second for an ADA self-assessment for our buildings and grounds for $15,000. So that does mean that should be more ARPA money available, as originally we had utilized ARPA funds for that classification and compensation study.
And is the ADA assessment not just town hall, but other, when you say buildings, is that broader? Yeah.
It's broader, and actually one of the buildings and grounds that I have been thinking of, because for the last couple years, I wanted to work with Tim Lavelli on when the school replaced those concrete sidewalk blocks, pieces, whatever you want to call it. One of the other items that we had found was that, I don't know how you want to describe it, but there's that ramp that goes out into the parking lot that is actually too steep, the rise that is in it. In order to be able to apply to the state for funds to change items like that, we need to do the self-assessment. So this is the first step, but yes, it would not just be for town hall. Let's see, the phone installation for the voice over IP system is scheduled for Tuesday, January 24th, starting at 9 a.m. And the actual cutover for the systems and the training is scheduled for Wednesday, January 25th. The Highway Department has a 2014 International dump plow truck that the engine has failed. They sent it out, found out that the engine was bad. The repair shop has estimated that to replace the engine with a rebuilt engine, it would be approximately $47,000, which is more than the truck would be worth once the engine was replaced. Unfortunately, this is not the truck which is planned to be taken out of service when the dump plow truck we have on order is delivered around March of this year. This does leave the Highway Department down 2 of their dump plow trucks at this point. The town, if it had an appropriation, it would seem to be better served to spend $70,000 to $90,000 on a used dump plow truck than to put the $47,000 into the engine into this one. We'll be filing our reimbursement request next week for a $100,000 Mass Trails grant for the acquisition of the right-of-way from Pioneer Valley Railroad for the Greenway Bicycle and Pedestrian Path Project, which we did close on that right-of-way in December of 2022. The fiscal year 2024 budget requests have been coming back from the departments and committees over the past week. Bradley and I will put them together and review them over the next week. Upcoming select board meetings, January 31st, and then select board meetings February to be determined.
Great. Any questions, anybody? Yeah, Rita?
First of all, I'm really glad to hear about the server. That's been a very long time coming, and I'm glad that they approved the extension. And I'm really also very happy that there's a date already set up for the phones. Both these things have been a long time coming, so I'm glad that they're actually happening. So is there a plan as far as, have you and Randall discussed a plan then in terms of this replacement? Is there going to be a request at the next town meeting, or are you just finding this out and haven't devised a plan yet?
Whether depending on if we have a special town meeting and it can identify funds or what have you, it would seem to be the most pertinent if we can identify funds to appropriate to purchase a used one. It would, in our minds, it would be the best course of action, rather than either putting the $47,000 into the repair of this, because both Randall and I realized that, okay, that's the quote for putting in the rebuilt engine. When they go to do that, are they probably going to find other things that need to be done? Very possibly. So,
what's the mileage on the?
These usually work by hours, and it's. I mean, usually a 2014, 2015, we should still have years of service and hours into it. This particular model, and when I was in Beckett, we actually moved away from the internationals and into the Freightliners, but this was one of the things that, and some other that we're starting to see in the internationals. And this particular, shall we say, engine has a history of not being reliable.
So there's no recall, there's no insurance, there's no rebate, there's no anything?
No.
Well, that's a shame.
So my money might come from capital, or where would you think of getting the money from? this point in time?
Like I say, the first thing we're going to have to do is identify, free cash, and then the other alternatives would be, okay, is there a possibility to lease a used truck to own and whatever? So that's some of the things we'll have to look into.
Different
Okay.
options. Okay.
And just one other question, I think at the last town meeting, not this one, but the annual, I'm not sure when it was voted, but there was money allocated for water for the cemetery, and I think the reason why it was needed was because the prices had gone up so much in the time that it was initially approved, so that doesn't happen again. Has that gone out to bid?
Not yet, because they won't be able to do it until the springtime, so
Okay, but we can still
we could.
move forward?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be helpful. We're not going to go back to town meeting for the third time to try to get funds
No.
to
No.
make this happen.
Yeah. No, and I think, like with a couple of other things, we just need to get some bids out on or the request for quotes out so that we can get on anybody's schedule, because then
Right.
already, spring's around the corner, literally, and so
Right.
a lot of contractors are already starting to book in their schedules, so we don't
Can
want
we
to
add
wait.
that to the pending list?
Yes.
Please?
Yep, I have it on a separate tickler list, but yes, I'll add it here.
Thanks.
Sure. Okay.
So, Chris,
Yes,
so I have one question, it's not on here, Ed, and I don't know if you know the answer or not, but what's the status of free cash certification? Percentage-wise, how close are we to submitting everything, or have we already done that?
No, we have not. Our target is mid-February.
For submission?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Other select board reports. I have no other questions for Ed. John, you want to start for a change?
Sure. PPP is going to meet later this week. We haven't met since the last meeting. Finance Committee met last week on Wednesday, but that was during the North School Committee meeting, so I did not attend it. And I believe all the requests are in now for capital, so we should probably look to get the capital committee to meet.
Okay,
That's it.
sounds good. Okay. Ready?
Okay, my reports are a little bit lengthy, so bear with me a little bit. I just want to make sure I clarify some information that's come up recently. First of all, Community Preservation Committee has not met, and there's no meeting planned. Board of Assessors, I wanted to start by offering my condolences on behalf of the Select Board to the family of Dave Arnold. He was the chair of our Board of Assessors, and he passed away a couple of weeks ago. Dave was an incredible member of this committee and the chair. He was a wealth of knowledge. I learned a lot from him in a very short amount of time. What that means is that we need another representative on the Board of Assessors, and we also have a very skeletal crew in there. So I'll speak to that a little bit more, but mostly I just wanted to offer my condolences to Dave's family. I know a number of us had gone to his wake. So thank you to his family on behalf of the Select Board for his service to the town. The Board of Assessors met last week, working on the FY24 budget. No PA applicants right now. The board has 2 members. They are interested in appointing another member. So please, if people have background in Board of Assessor duties, please consider applying to be appointed to this committee. The interim PA and the administrative assistant are running the office, are doing a great job, but keep in mind the Board of Assessors is the front door of our, budget office, and we don't want to leave money on the table. There are a lot of ways that we can improve the income to the town, and we need to get this department on firmer footing. The next meeting is this Thursday, the 19th, at 9 o'clock in person in the assessor's office. Council on Aging met January 4th. I was not able to attend, but basically they're also looking at the FY24 budget. They also need 2 board members. We had a presentation by Liz Plouffe, who was a social worker and was hired by the town of city of Easthampton for an outreach type position, and she's extremely busy helping the city of Easthampton with a number of social related help. And so the reason we invited her is because with the $50,000 earmark for the ARPA funds from Senator DeVilis, the committee identified someone to do outreach for the senior center, also cultural programs, and also fundraising as high priorities. So this Thursday, a subgroup of the COA will be hearing from a fundraiser about what she does and how she generates funds and what her charges are and so forth, just to look a little bit more into this and report back to the COA board. And the next meeting of the COA board is February 1st at 4 o'clock via Zoom. The COA Building Feasibility Committee met on the 12th, and they meet every 2 weeks with Abacus, architects and planners. They revise the timetable. They're very much on track for completion of the study in March. They continue to evaluate potential sites and design features for the new center. A SurveyMonkey was completed online. As you might remember, 70 people attended an in-person program, and additional 296 responses came in to the survey. That will hopefully be posted on our website. So we have a meeting the 26th at noon via Zoom to further discuss the survey results and incorporate the feedback into planning of space and programming for the senior center. They continue to revise and get closer to providing feedback on sites and building and all of that. So there's also a meeting planned with the Public Safety Building Committee, a joint meeting on the 9th of February at noon via Zoom. And there's a public meeting for the general public to gather feedback and provide information on March 1st at 7 o'clock. That has, I don't have a location for that yet. And the Public Safety Building Committee met last Monday. We welcomed new member Mark Mancino, discussed the RFQ, responses, next steps, and timetable. Chief Workman will be setting up a site visit for Hadley. And we also discussed the fact that we had received that $50,000 from the legislative. And so I don't know if we got any responses to the RFQ. We haven't discussed it yet as a committee, so we won't say too much more about that, but we're anxiously looking to hear what came in to the response to the RFQs. So I just want to make something really, really clear about these two committees. These committees are working extremely hard. We're trying extremely hard to be transparent, to be objective, to not go too much on hearsay and that sort of thing. So I want to make it really clear about a couple things. The first thing is the land for consideration. So the Public Safety Building Committee has identified 5 properties that they're looking at for a site consideration. And of course, the Feasibility Committee, when we do end up hiring a firm, will help us determine which ones are more feasible than others. They're currently the current fire station. So the Historical Commission is not stopping the demolition of the current fire station. In previous public safety reviews, they did not want to knock it down. They are not stopping that if that's decided to be the best situation. So the current fire station and the current highway department are the 2 sites that are town-owned. They decided not to vote off the highway department because it would have meant coming back to the select board first before the RFQ went back out again. So they didn't officially remove it, but it's not a high priority site. And then the 3 properties that are private properties are Clark Street, which is Marmon Keystone property, right next to the industrial site, and also right next to that site, which is Gielaher's property, Ryan Gielaher. Those are the 2 on Clark Street, and then Zero College Highway, which is Labrie land across from Park Place, the Parker and O'Grady, across from Parker and O'Grady. It is not Labrie Fields on Strong Road. That was put in the paper. It was a misquote in the paper. That is not a consideration. So last meeting, the Public Safety Building Committee did not support adding the Coombs property on Clark Street. So we also received letters from a couple landowners asking for them to consider our property. So the select board should have a discussion at some point, maybe after the senior center discusses this, but Bruce Combs owns land on Clark Street next to Ryan Gielaher's, and it was offering this as a potential property to be considered. There are environmental considerations to that site, and the Public Safety Building Committee felt that it did not add anything more and perhaps less than the other properties on Clark Street, so voted not to support necessarily the select board sending out a letter on that particular property, but obviously that's up to the select board. I want to be clear about the senior center. The sites that are being considered are almost the exact same sites, which is why we're having a joint meeting on the 9th of February. The first is the current fire station, and then the current police station. Those are the 2 town-owned sites. We're very focused on the town-owned because that's the charge of the select board, and also we're very sensitive about the idea of taking private land off the tax rolls. So we need to justify why town-owned property isn't preferred. So we're doing due diligence to evaluate the town-owned sites. And then the 3 other sites are Clark Street, Gielaher, Marmon Keystone, and then College Highway, Labrie land. So exactly the same 5 sites. We also got a letter from a property owner on East Street, which does not have frontage on East Street, but it's behind, but it borders Conant Park, which on some level would have been very nice because right there's the pickleball courts, tennis courts, pavilion, and so forth. It's a very wet property. It's the Wright family had written us a letter, and then we did actually take that site off because of the restrictions of putting a road in from Conant Park, that there were restrictions when Conant Park was built in terms of having a road going in to the actual park. So that was removed because it was also wet. And then we were asked to consider the Harley-Davidson building, and it was too big, too expensive, a $3 million price tag, not really very feasible for a center. We're very happy with Abacus Architects and Planners. They're actually very much on track. They're very easy to work with, and we've been very happy with them. There was a unanimous decision to hire them. So I just want to say both committees are working very hard to be transparent, objective, and elicit public input. All minutes are posted and all meetings are videotaped. If anyone has any questions, please reach out to the chairs of the committees. The Senior Center is Janet Kane and Andrew LaFosse, and the Public Safety Building Committee is Mark Darnold. These three people are doing a great job on the leadership of these committees that are meeting every 2 weeks for the most part. So I said, Abacus, we're very happy with them. It was a unanimous decision to hire them, and we're very pleased with them. The Public Safety Building Committee, unfortunately, did not have any responses to the first RFQ. We're very hopeful to engage a firm soon. And like I said, there'll be a joint meeting on the 9th of February. I would just encourage, I mean, this is a recommendation for all the residents in Southampton. I would focus on what you hear yourself, what you see yourself, and what you read yourself, and not pay attention to what I consider to be hearsay, whether you post on social media or whether you attend a meeting and discuss what you heard from lots of other people. I think that all of this, you know, we really need a public safety complex bad. We really need a senior center. And the best way that we're going to get there is to work together on this, and that's why we're having the joint meeting. And I would encourage everybody to work from firsthand information and contact department heads, committee chairs, to read minutes, to watch videos, and not necessarily post things on social media or come to meetings and say a lot of hearsay. I think we really need these things, and we need to work together.
And just to clarify, on the February 9th meeting, the joint meeting, that's on Zoom, so
It's
people
on
could,
noon, 12 o'clock on Zoom.
so people could join in if they wanted to and at least listen in on that, right?
And all the meetings are taped and all the minutes are posted.
Okay, good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Complete reports there.
Thanks.
All right. But it does sound like there's been a lot of activity there. I mean, there's certainly been lots of work going on, so hopefully we'll get through our
Yeah, we
various
just have to all meet,
processes. Yeah.
I think everybody knows we need the
Yeah.
public safety building.
Oh, yeah, no, I think-
We
yeah. Mm-hmm.
need a public safety complex. I mean, there's no question about it. Huntington just got $2 million from Richie Neal and
Yeah.
the federal government for their senior center. So where there's a
another
will,
reach
there's a
out we need
way.
to
I used
make
to always
and-
tell my kids this, where there's a will, there's a way. And I
Yeah.
think the way we have a will is to all work together to
Yeah.
get there.
Right.
And if we keep having roadblocks, it's not going to help. I think we all need, realize we need it, and we just need to communicate openly and effectively.
Right. And we may find a way to reach out to somebody like Congressman Neal, too. I mean, we've been working with our state, officials, John Vilas and Kelly Pease, but maybe we need to go another level above that once we are ready to do that. So,
Yep.
anyway, good. Okay, Joy.
Sure. Conservation Commission isn't meeting this month because of the holiday. Their next meeting is February 6th. Planning Board met on January 4th. There was a lengthy discussion in regards to the new starter home zoning district under MGL Chapter 40Y, and we discussed with Richard, the consultant, who's going to check in with DHCD in regards to a couple of questions that Planning Board had. The Housing Authority had wanted me to address this with Planning Board and looking into this more because it is new legislation. There are a lot of questions that we discussed at Planning Board that Richard said he would look into for us. There was more discussion in regards to getting further DLTA grants to either look into this or look into MassWorks funding if possible to create a starter home zoning district in town. Their next meeting was canceled, so I'm not sure when their next meeting will be. Open space, as we heard from Cindy, they lots of good news in regards to the conserving the land and the land grant. Their next meeting was also canceled. I'm sure they'll be meeting sometime in February. Southampton Housing Authority met on January 9th. We discussed next steps for the Housing Trust Authority and College Highway. There was a question on, I'm sorry, I should have asked you this earlier, Ed, but for College Highway, that property, there was a survey. Do you know who the surveyor was for that survey for that property?
I'd have to go back and look.
Okay, all right. That was one of the questions that we had. And then we also discussed the discussion that I had with Planning Board in regards to 40Y. We discussed working with Community One Stop for Growth, which similarly could work with the town in regards to an application with a grant. They have a rural and small communities specific fund that would work with small towns in regards to looking at zoning and implementing more affordable housing in rural communities. So I think it was up to $100,000. So that's something that I and one of the other Housing Authority members were looking into and researching to maybe put together a grant proposal and bring that maybe to the grant committee to just review. We would be doing most of the heavy lifting. Their next meeting is February 13th. Is that?
Okay, very good. Okay.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
So the grant would be to, so I mean, you're looking at next steps, so you own the land now, right?
Oh, this grant is in regards to the zoning in
Okay, the
town,
zoning, okay,
not
okay.
specific to the property that we've already purchased. That's a
Okay.
completely
What's
different
happening in
project.
terms of the next steps on that property?
My understanding was the next steps was the statement of, we have to create the statement of work to go into the RFQ, where's RF, yes, yes, one of those. So that's what the next step is.
Okay, so that would be a bid to have a builder?
Yes, and we're hoping that we'll get some bids. I know there's been a lot of discussion with Habitat for Humanity, who has done a lot of affordable housing work in the area, so.
So would they be part of the bidding process? That wouldn't be a separate thing? They would bid on it, just like any other
Yes.
builder would?
Yes.
Is there money available to support, because I know a lot of times the builders, we had I think the Housing Authority a while back had a meeting over at Paisanos to bring in builders to find out what the roadblocks are and obviously it's money. So is there money to actually support the building of affordable houses that could then be used by the Housing Authority to pay builders?
At this point, I'm not aware of any funds besides what's in the CPA, but we can't use those because we haven't had it established a housing trust. We've had passed the bylaw, but it isn't functioning, so.
Yeah. Ed? Yeah.
Was your question in general or specific to the 354 College Highway?
Well, it was in general.
Okay. Yeah, it really depends on what is out there. Does the land become, shall we say, if the town puts up land, does that become the equivalent to funds to make it attractive?
Yeah, I think with the land cost would be one of the things that would be one of the prohibitive costs maybe for a developer, right? If they have to, actually pay for the land as well, so. Who knows, but yeah, it's a challenge. We're not the only town having that same
No,
issue
we're
for
not.
sure. But, all right, let me just jump in real quick on the grant committee report. I'm sorry it came out quite so big. I don't know how my formatting did that, but anyway, I just wanted to give you a listing of the grants for basically the calendar year. So it pretty much goes from November, December of 21 until December of 2022. And just to show you that, yes, the grant committee exists and we're working on things, but there's a lot of credit that goes to other departments in town that are working to grab onto small monies as they come forth. And I may be missing some, so I will reserve the right to go back and check on these. There might be another one or two from Highway or somebody that I've missed. But these are ones that have been reported to me. So right now, we have a variety of grants listed out that both the police and the fire department have been able to bring in, which is great, for a variety of things, from dispatcher training to training for the drug addiction and recovery team. There's some new things in for the fire department on a self-contained breathing apparatus, some wildland fire gear, I guess, and then also some equipment to help should they be involved in any kind of an active shooter situation to help out the police. So there's been some interesting grants that have come forward to them. Highway has been able to get some money for flooding mitigation through the Connecticut Beaver Institute, of all places, and as well as get some dividend back on the Sustainable Materials Recovery Program, which is very good. And we have right now a townwide assessment, culvert assessment grant application that is out, and we won't probably know about that until February, and that is to the Mass Clean Water Trust, and that's for about $84,000. And so that's what's been happening at some of the other departmental levels, and altogether the grants received through that crowd so far, at least basically for the calendar year of 22, is $99,618.98. So that's great news.
Yeah.
For the grant committee itself, we have a couple of things. We have the $27,000 is on your basically your last page almost. $27,000 received for the update of the hazard mitigation plan, which we will need to get a consultant to be able to start work on that and pull the hazard mitigation committee together to work on the update of the plan. We've had a total of, well, at this point, $400,000 from Mass Trails toward the Greenway Committee. We have had a couple of others that we have tried. One was the big national one with the RAISE federal grant that we were not awarded. And we've got some other small things that we're working on as well. A couple of, an equipment one for the Safe Routes to Schools, which is to put in a couple of solar-powered school speed zone signs. And that one just went in on the weekend as a request. We're hoping to hear something on the infrastructure grant that we put in from Safe Routes to Schools, but we haven't heard on that one yet either. But hopefully by our next meeting, we'll know whether we're in the pool or not. But just to say, with what we've received, and basically the majority of that has been with the Mass Trails and for the Greenway, that's been $427,000 worth of grant money. So basically, a total of $526,618.98 in grant money. So again, about $500,000 combined efforts. And again, I may be missing a couple here and there, and I'm not taking into consideration things that have been like, the Chapter 90, Chapter 70 money that's kind of, a yearly thing. This is really, trying to apply, for a grant specific kind of thing.
I'm sure there were school department grants too.
Right, there are, and as I was hearing that tonight, I know I don't have other school department grants on here too, so that's what I'm saying. I may be undercounting here what we have, but at least to give you an idea that, there is effort happening both at the ad hoc grant committee level, obviously, but certainly also at the department levels. And I will go back and just double check. There may be library and others, COA, others that may have achieved something that I didn't count in the previous year. Okay, so we'll keep that updated as much as we can.
Can you send that out as a document by itself? It was part of the supplement and then it was the hard copy, but do you have that document as a separate document?
The tracker, the grant tracker?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
I'd love to have that separately.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to maybe, since I see our fire chief in the audience here, if nobody has any objection, we have, John, we have the request for the ARPA money for the UTV trailer on our old business. If nobody has any objection, I'd like to bring that up forward and take care of that and not have John have to wait all night till we get there. Mm-hmm. And this, just to remind folks, this is one we had discussed sometime in early December. We wanted it to go back out for other quotes that were more comprehensive, that included also the lighting for the trailer, et cetera. And we all agreed that we had various scenarios between us, Finance Committee, which which way we would do it, and we basically just said we just need to do it the most expeditious way possible so that costs don't keep going up. So I am fine with having it come before us as an ARPA request tonight. And John, if you want to tell us kind of what the latest news is on that, I guess, and what the request is all
John
about.
Workman, Fire Chief. So third time seems to be a charm. We've got the grant back, and the winning bid was $2,500 under the previous.
This is the quotes that you went out for?
Yep, the quotes that we went out for. So that's looking great. The only little bit of a downside is just that it'll take a couple months for it to get here because they have to order it from the factory. So instead of $4,000, it's about $1,900, $1,894.61. So seems to have worked out well for us. We're pretty excited and hoping that we can move this forward. It does have a 30-day window with the grants as they go out, so hopefully we'll get your approval tonight.
Yeah, and so the 1894.61 is what you need from ARPA, and then the balance is coming from?
From the burn permit revolving fund.
Okay.
And this includes, when it went out to bid, it included the light and
The lights,
additional-
yeah.
Yep.
This does now include that, right?
Yep, includes everything.
Okay, yeah, here it is with
Yeah.
lights.
Yeah.
So the total amount was, you said 15,885?
I forget what the total amount was.
Yeah.
The total amount for the UTV trailer for the low qualified bid was $15,885.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. And so the amount of money available in the burn permits is closer to that 13,000 or something?
Yeah, we actually went
thereabouts.
to the accountant, deducted what was left in that burn permit account. And then the balance is this $1,894.61, which we're hoping to get from ARPA.
All right. So there is no need then to go back to strategy X that we had before of a one-time increase in the revolving fund or any of that. That is null and void at this point in time
Correct.
because the
Yep.
quotes came in lower than we had in plan.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to support the balance of this ATV,
UTV.
Trailer?
aluminum frame trailer for the UTV of $1,894.61 from ARPA funds.
Okay. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Any questions? All right. If not, could I call for a vote? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I believe I hear 4-0.
Wonderful, thank you,
So
folks.
you finally have it.
Appreciate that.
Thank you all, appreciate it.
Very much.
Good, no,
Thank you,
thank you.
Jen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So hopefully we can put that to bed now and get everything acquired and get it where it needs to be. Thanks, Sean, appreciate it. Okay. Let's come down to appointments and resignations. We've got a couple things here.
I'll make a
You wanna
motion
take
to
the
approve the
resignation?
resignation of Kenneth Cole, a COA van driver, and say thank you very much for your service for the last couple of years.
Okay. So we have a motion for the resignation. Shall we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? I assume we're recruiting for another sub. We only
think
have one
we-
van driver now?
I
is
think
that
we
right?
got a RF, didn't we approve the last meeting or the one before?
Oh, maybe we did, yeah.
Posting?
Yeah.
Posting,
A
yeah.
posting, yeah,
Oh, that's what I
right.
was thinking of.
It was a posting, yeah, it was
Yes.
the RF, yeah, not the PRF. Right, okay, good. If no questions, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, and
And I'll make a motion to approve the at-large member to the Open Space Committee, Edward Buckley, term to expire June 30th, 2025.
I'll second.
all right. Just a little bit of background here. In his note here, he's said that he's a retired manufacturing supervisor with a degree in GIS systems, avid hiker, member of a running club, basically an outdoor fanatic of sorts, enjoys our trails and woodlands in town, et cetera, and would like to be of service. So that sounds very encouraging. So thank you for stepping up, and if anybody has any questions, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Mr. Buckley is appointed. All right. Thank you very much. Next on the list, we have 2 2 candidates for 2 slots on the Zoning Board of Appeals. One, Jennifer Day, term to expire June 30th, 2025, and Amanda Zadonis Kemp, term to expire June 30th, 2024. So again, staggered timeframes here. And I think one of our holdups the last time was to look at, we had put in a request for zoning board minutes, and we had received, not part of this package, but earlier we'd received 3 sets of minutes for the last several months at least that I think everybody should have seen by now.
They incorporated all of 2022 except the last meeting of 2022 because the minutes would not have had a chance to be approved yet.
Okay, because they haven't met. Okay, yep.
Can I ask a question about that? I know there are a lot of minutes that are not posted for the ZBA, and I know that these ones weren't. I have some questions about some of the minutes, and I don't know, obviously I don't expect you to answer it, but I don't know whether or not, I guess I'll just contact the chair of the committee then about these minutes, but they only met 3 times last year?
It would have been four with the meeting that they have not met again to approve the minutes from. I think that was in November.
So it's my understanding they only meet whenever there's an issue that is before them. It's not a
Correct.
regular set meeting. Okay. All right. So would anybody like to make a motion here? We have,
I'd like to handle them separately, and I'll make a motion to approve Amanda Zadonis Kemp to the Zoning Board of Appeals, term to expire June 30th, 2024.
Second.
all right. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Did you want to read
No
anything
opposed?
from her thing, or since she's not here?
We can, yes. So we have Amanda's background here. She has a cover, or she's put in her resume as well. So just also saying, prior to accepting a position with Hampshire Registry of Deeds, Amanda practiced law specializing in the area of real estate and has a familiarity with the issues that will be presented for the board. And then she has quite a resume that's been presented here with her current duties at the registry, her membership in the state bar, her various affiliations for other committees over time, including Southampton's Finance Committee, and as the rep to CPC back in 2013 to 2016. Okay. All right, so I think I heard an approval there, so all set and done on that one. All right, and the next is for Jennifer Day, for the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I have a letter somewhere. Hold on. Yep, okay, also has a letter in the package. So could I have a motion? Or if not, I will make a motion to approve Jen Day to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Could I have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? Anyone? We have a letter here. Currently Treasurer Collector of Southampton, has a background in business administration, states that basically on a daily basis she interacts with land use offices such as the building department, assessors, health department, and water department, familiar with land court proceedings, tax title issues, open meeting law, public records law, etc., and believes that her experience working in town government would be a service to this particular board. Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, so I'm not in support of this right now. I think there's a existing backlog within that office, and just to add more responsibility to this individual will just slow down the process of getting the primary function that they're elected to do done.
Well, I think my only comment on that would be that given that this is a board that meets maybe 4 times a year, I don't see that as interfering with a normal daily workload.
I respect your view, but disagree.
Okay, that's fine. Anybody else? All right, any other discussion? No? All right, well, we have a motion on the floor and we have a second, so I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor of Jen Day as being appointed to the Zoning Board of Appeals, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we have a 2-2 tie. In which case, what happens, Ed? It
It's no
fails?
vote.
No vote?
No.
Okay. Okay. All right, and the last one we have is for a Kurt, I believe is pronounced Nalon, to the Ad Hoc Technology Committee, term to expire June 30th, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve Kurt Nylon to the Ad Hoc Technology Committee, term to expire June 30th, 2025.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. And I'll just note his cover letter here. 25 years experience as a systems integrator, PLC programmer. His duties include automating facilities to allow operators to run and monitor their facility from a centralized computer, assist end users to link their facility from a remote location, and assist in the design of network architecture involving fiber optic and cabling with network switches, routers, and firewalls. So he sounds like he's got some hands-on experience here for us. So we have a motion and a second, I believe.
Yes, Jen seconded it.
Jen sorry, did we have a second? Yes?
I second.
Yes.
Yeah, John did, yeah. Okay, so
John.
if no further discussion at all, any discussion? Right, seeing none, let's have a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Could I just ask
Any
a
opposed?
question about the Technology Committee? With the new server and the new phones, is the Technology Committee involved at all at this point? Ed?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Both David Rooks has been involved, especially working on the VoIP with Ed. And let's see, the new server work has been primarily Ed. That was a large part of what Kim Floric had done before she left. And I think Dan Lavelli's helped out a little bit on that, but it's been pretty much you on that one, right, Ed? And then the cybersecurity training will be something that will kind of happens in an automated process that they won't actually be involved in. But yeah, they've gone through that. But the whole specs on the server and everything were done when Kim Floric was on the committee. Okay. All right. Moving on, new business. We have, first on the agenda here, the Franklin County Regional Council of Governments highway bid. So Ed, you want to just explain it just for 2 seconds here?
Yes, and for the past couple of years, we've actually used the Franklin Regional Council of Governments to do some joint bids for us, especially in the highway department, whether that happened to be winter goods like sand, salt, also utilize them for our road bids as far as whether it's overlay or rebuilding or buying, gravel or hot asphalt. So this year they've added a new criteria that the authorization needs to be signed by the chair of the select board. So it is here for the select board to hopefully vote for approval for us to utilize the joint bidding work that FERCog does, and to allow us to join in that, shall we say, centralized bid. The fee for the town of Southampton, since our population is over 5,000 but less than 20,000, and we are a non-FERCog member, would be $3,500.
Oh, we're not a FERCog member. We're not.
Does that come out of the Highway Department budget?
Yes, it does.
I'll make a motion to approve our being participants in the collective highway bid from Franklin Regional Council of Governments.
Okay, could I have a second?
Is this annual?
Yes.
Yeah, it's an annual cost, yeah. Could I have a second on that?
Second.
All right, discussion?
Yes. Well, you answered my first question. So this is just a one-year thing for '24?
Correct.
Yeah.
They do it every year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's both yours and Randall's recommendation to move forward with this?
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay.
And is there any reason why we should not join as a member? Is that something we should think about?
We're in the wrong county.
We're in the wrong county.
Oh, well,
We are.
Well, given that our rep doesn't, live in the, I mean, we're in the wrong county for our rep, too.
We switched a couple years ago.
No, we are members of Pioneer Valley.
Oh, okay, gotcha, okay. All right, so this is $3,500 that would come out of the highway budget. So we'll just have to be sure that Randall knows this and budgets for it, right? All right, so I think we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right, motion
Thank you.
passes. Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Yep, all righty.
We used to be part of the Hampshire Council of Governments, and it
Right,
dissolved.
it folded, right. I guess
Dissolved.
I guess I didn't realize that, I guess that, I assumed that FERCog kind of took over, and I didn't realize that, yes, of course, you have to be in the right county, but anyway, just my slowness tonight. Thank you. All right, next, Greenway Committee charge and number of members. Maybe, Ed, do you want to take this, or John? Ed?
Yeah, I took this one on, and it's a combination of two items. Never could really find a charge for the Greenway Committee, and actually, over the last, shall we say, 5 or 6 days, actually found some information, although not a written charge. And it's actually been through 2 iterations, one for a feasibility phase, one for that Greenway Committee being a negotiating committee that negotiated with the railroad for an acquisition cost for the right-of-way. We're coming up to the 3rd piece of that. What I had found on our website was there was 4 slots for members, so it seemed like it was an 8-member committee. Actually, in the information I found, previously it had been a 7-member committee. Currently it has 8 on it, so we do have one person that has shown interest, and if the board approves it going to 9 members, that volunteer application would be before the board to serve on this committee at the January 31st meeting. But that being the case, and I tried my best to draft a charge of the duties that would be expected out of the committee at this particular point in time, change the membership to a 9-member committee, make it staggered terms for 3-year terms, so 3 would expire each year, name the town administrator as an ad hoc ex officio non-voting member of that particular committee. And one thing that I did put in there, and like I say, I'm open to any suggestions or whatever the select board has. I just tried to get something on the table that might make it easier to come to an end that could be approved. But I made the committee members' requirement as residents of the town of Southampton. You can do anything from not having that requirement and have somebody serve from out of town. You could make it a requirement that they be registered voters instead of just residents of the town of Southampton. But I just tried my best to cover at least most of the bases, or if not all of them, and get something the select board members could take a look at and, play around with, edit, what have you.
Did you put in that they must be residents somewhere? I'm not seeing that.
Yes.
Should be in there.
The second
Second
sentence
paragraph.
of the second paragraph.
And voting members from the community.
Oh, okay. From the community at large. Okay, so that means not just Southampton. When you say community at large? What is community?
No, to me now, community at large is now a term that is different from saying, we need a member of the Parks Commission. We need a member of the Planning Board. We want a member of Conservation on this particular committee.
Right.
So to me, just member at large is just in general from the residency of the town.
But you interpret that to mean that it requires residency.
Well,
Community at large is Southampton.
in the second paragraph?
Yeah.
Not Hampshire County per se.
Yeah. Committee members shall be residents of the town of Southampton.
Right.
It specifically says that. And like I said,
Oh, second sentence. Sorry.
The first
we all
sentence.
stopped at the
We were
first
focused on the
period.
first sentence, all of us. Never mind.
I think I always have to think about where's the money coming from. Now, this committee is going to be applying for funds from the community preservation. Are they going to independently look for grants? So I think that's when it's important. I can see how a member of Easthampton might be a really good person to be on this committee to advise on what they went through, perhaps on the Easthampton side of the rail trail. But I think that it comes down to the money, since this is taxpayer surcharge.
Yeah, and I think that's where the voting members, that's where I got stuck there. So
Yeah.
proposing a 9-member committee, all of whom have the right to vote, except you would be the 10th. The town administrator is the 10th non-voting member, is that right? Yeah, okay, got it.
I just might word that so it's not confusing around community at large versus town of Southampton.
Yeah.
And who votes and who doesn't.
Right.
And the first paragraph, too, there's some that are like not complete sentences, so either, to advise the select board and to, anyway, I just, the writing, I think, could be better. And I think it should say, just as this Public Safety Committee says, minutes shall be posted.
So we might change, the 9 voting members from the community at large, I don't know, from town or something? We say the residents.
Well, shall consist of 9 voting members.
9 voting members, period, because then you
Committee
say.
members shall be residents
Yeah,
of the town.
because then after that, you say committee members shall be residents of the town.
Right,
So that's almost
right.
duplicative there, yeah. Yeah, okay.
And I prefer it just be residents of the town, not registered voters of the town.
And then, comma, who shall be appointed by the committee, to the committee by the select board. That's not a full sentence there.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Right. Yeah, no, and I think the voting members doesn't mean that you're a voter in town, but you're able to vote on the committee.
Correct. I mean, we
but
could
that's-
go more restrictive. That was
Yeah.
one of the suggestions not a suggestion, just one of the
No, no,
comments
yeah.
Ed made. But I like the fact that if there happens to be a 16 or 17-year-old out there that really shows interest and wants to get in, we shouldn't dissuade that.
Right, and that's where I think the residents of the town should cover that part,
Yep.
hopefully,
Yeah.
yep.
Instead of putting like comma, who shall be, I think just starting a new sentence, members shall be appointed to the committee by the select board, and terms shall be for 3 years, so that those are all completed together, as opposed to
Yeah.
sentences that start with who and.
Yeah. All right. So just to tidy that up a bit, where unless this were bullet pointed, so I think you need more complete
Right,
sentences.
same
yeah.
thing with the first paragraph, either bullet point them or maybe connect them differently.
Just one thing, so to monitor the design and construction of the portion of the Greenway Rail Trail, since that's kind of where we are now, I think I would hope that they would also engage with, design firms and take an active role in public outreach and those kinds
Right.
of things, so,
And seek funding.
right. So, how about, is this time sensitive in terms of when they're meeting again, or do we know?
I would like to wrap it up for the next meeting so we can get that volunteer application up. So, I mean, I'm fine with if each of you would like to send me suggested edits to this.
Okay,
Okay.
good. Can you send this as a Word document, separate
Yeah.
from, yeah?
Yeah,
That'd be
we do
great.
that,
Then we can just give feedback to it, that'd be great.
Yeah, and then we can kind of share. it.
Don't wait on my version, I trust them, on whatever they want. All right? But in the interest of timing,
Yeah.
would it make sense to also tee up the applicant that's in the waiting, so they can both happen at the next meeting?
Well, that was my intent.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
good.
That this would be approved, it would go to 9 members, and at that same meeting, we would take up that volunteer application.
So we wouldn't actually have to approve this until the next meeting, though? You're okay with that, or?
I'm fine with
Yeah,
that.
okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I say, I just try to put something
Yeah.
together to get the discussion going and get us to an
Perfect.
endpoint sooner than
No, that's good.
just saying, hey, we need this.
Yeah, well, and I think in reality, I mean, any committee I've ever tried to be part of, I think having an odd number of people just makes sense. I mean, it's really hard when you have even numbers on the committee, so if that's what they've been dealing with, I'm sure this will be a bit of a relief to have an extra member there. Okay. All right, so anybody who wants to, I know I will probably, Rini,
Yep.
get some feedback from Joy. Anybody get some feedback back to Ed on this? And we'll get that ready for the next time. Perfect. Okay, select board Annual policy review, yeah, okay. So, thank you for preliminary homeworks for people that got a handle on it. Some have started doing research and having meetings with other departments that are related to the policy they volunteered for, but haven't concluded that yet. And tonight, I don't think we're going to be ready to vote on anything. I just wanted to have a discussion of the 4 or 5 that maybe came before us so far, just to see where any questions that you're having in terms of trying to figure out what kind of a policy to recommend, and/or any recommendations that you do have already that you want to float them by us. But then my goal, I think, would be to, just have that in the back of our heads as discussion. The next meeting, those that haven't had a chance to put theirs forward yet, to try and also send in a draft like that. And then maybe in our first meeting in February, we would be ready to maybe sign off and approve these, okay? So no real time sensitivity here, but I don't want them to drag on and on and on and on, okay?
Right.
So the first one I had in my package, I think maybe was Joy. You want to take up the notion on the recycled,
Sure.
by recycled policy, and I know you had a couple questions on that, so just to
I
say.
did, and then Ed answered them all, so I have no questions. No, I'm kidding.
So I think we have, just for clarity, in our package, we had your email, and then you had provided some samples, from.
I did. So the buy recycled policy I have must have been like the 1998 version.
Right.
Because the one that went out in Ed's memorandum from January 3rd of this year is way different and reflects more of the samples that I had sent along with my questions. So, and I compared the two, and they're very similar. I mean, ours is very thorough compared to the ones from Westhampton and Westford and Uxbridge that I had sent with my questions. So I'm fine with what we have now, if that's the version that we have now, which it seems like it is.
Well, I'm just going to bring up one thing if I can find it again in here, because I'm glad you did this and sent these out. Let's see if I can find it. There's one in here that actually says that if the recycled paper becomes, I don't know, and I can't remember now, more than 10% or 20.
More cost issue than it's worth, and
Right, then you can purchase the regular. And I was thrilled to see that, because actually we are at a point right now where I think the virgin paper is, I think, maybe as much as 15% cheaper than the recycled paper.
It's in the Westford policy.
Yeah, Westford.
Really? So the recycled paper is not cheaper than regular?
No, and I'll tell you that since COVID,
Yeah.
recycled paper is about doubled, and yes, virgin paper has gone up
Okay.
also. So, but extreme price increases to them.
Okay.
So those first two standards, or just the second one, when possible and appropriate, and if the cost.
I would probably just add another
Yeah.
bullet point in there that
Okay.
kind of says the same thing as that Westford one of, town department shall implement a price preference 10% if possible to encourage the procurement.
Right.
And I think I might have seen one that is even somewhere that might be phrased a little differently than that. I will take a look and see if I can find that again.
I thought the one, out of the ones you had, so you had Westford and Westhampton and Uxbridge, I believe.
Uxbridge, yes.
Uxbridge. What I kind of liked, and I might just think about recommending, I liked the fact that in Westford's that they put out a definitions in there of the pre-consumer recycled content and post-consumer recycled content and virgin materials. It may just be helpful to have that. It's at the bottom of the Westford
the
one.
definitions.
I don't think that's in ours, and it might be helpful to have some definitions in our
Sure.
preamble somewhere here. But yeah, I think those would be a couple of good things to add into that. And then,
Yeah, I think ours, the only thing is printed on 30% post-consumer recycled content, and that's it.
yeah. So if there's a couple other things, but those maybe would be good changes, and that would really be a big update compared to what we have on hand, okay? Did you have any other questions, Joy, about that?
No, that was it.
Okay.
So-
And what would, remind me, the couple other policies that you were going to work on?
Before we move on, so for that next step,
Okay.
is that something that, do you want me to like look over the policy and revise it for
Yeah,
Ed's
work with
suggestions?
that.
Okay,
and
all
I
right,
think,
perfect.
come back
And
with a
I'll
draft
do
where
that
you've
then.
incorporated that, yeah.
Let me put all those to the side. I think I have like 800 pages that say something about recycling. Okay. And then my next ones were actually really simple. I had the special municipal employee designation, which matched up with whatever MGL that was, the law, the statute that was. So I didn't have any changes or comments about that. And then the alcohol hours policy really was subjective to the town and was kind of written in with their own like licensing for alcohol. And I didn't find anything very specific just to alcohol hours.
Are there hours in the current policy? Or I don't have it in front of me.
In the current policy, we just have a policy called alcohol hours.
Right, and did it give hours specifically?
Yes. It says within 30 minutes after closing time. All tables and bars must be cleared of all glasses, bottles, and containers of alcoholic beverages, and all customers must be off premises within 30 minutes after closing time, the hour listed on the alcohol license. So communities either had increased that time or had said after like 1 p.m. or 1 a.m. or 12 a.m. So it was very subjective there were different variations on it. So I think it's really.
30 minutes after closing,
Yeah, so
closing.
have last call.
Last
At
call.
1 a.m.
Yeah,
Everything's got to be off the tables by 1:30.
Yeah.
So you can't, at last call, order 6 drinks
right, yeah,
and stay for an hour.
yeah.
That we were checking with Chief Illingsworth?
That's a good idea, yes.
Maybe double
I'll
check.
check in.
Just see if there's any- and he might know,
Sorry, I was just
some
based.
things- Yeah,
And wording it 30 minutes after closing time.
Yeah.
Whether you've got a place that closes at 10, 11,
Yeah.
right.
12, or whatever.
You don't have to worry
It's
about-
Right, you're not
Timing,
saying, you know,
Now, is there, just a silly,
by 1:30 a.m. assuming
Because-
one
Yeah.
closed.
I don't know what time it is now, but it used to be either 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. Some places, they close well before that. They
Right.
close at 10, but just because your permit says you can stay open till 1,
yeah,
doesn't mean you continue to have a private party.
Yeah.
So you keep the closing time.
Closing time,
yeah,
yeah.
closing time is
Yeah.
good language to use. And does that have any effect at all in terms of when we do alcohol licenses for people at the park? For a one-day thing?
Though, here's the one piece I found about doing, not really. The one thing I find, and I haven't really gotten into it a whole heck of a lot about the park has rules that basically closes at dusk. So, if you, I mean, it's one thing to have a pavilion permit and an alcohol permit that goes to 9 p.m. on probably around, June 21st or 22nd, which is the longest day of the year. However, if you do the same thing on basically October 30th or whatever, or later into November, those days are shorter. So I've looked at a few along the way that says, the pavilion permit says to, when they're asking for an alcohol permit, to like 9, and then I look at it and go, dusk is probably around 8 at that particular time. So that's the only thing I would bring up on that particular subject, is that we probably should pay a little bit more attention to dusk, or talk to the park commissioners about, okay, your rules say that park closes at dusk. You seem to be giving permits to use the pavilion till after dusk, where are we here? Yeah.
Maybe that's a discussion with the parks folks, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
good to know.
All right, I'll check in
All
with.
right, so I think what you could do, Joy, would be to take the, on those two, if you
Yep.
have just some minor changes, all I would do would be to take that same policy, and then where it says last reviewed by select board up in that heading, just put a current date on it, if there's no other real changes up in the bar of that policy part. You see what I mean, like up in this
Yeah, up
area?
this?
Yeah. If you've got the Word version, yeah. So when we're updating it.
I don't
we'll-
have Word versions
Oh,
of these.
okay.
I just have the paper versions.
Oh, we didn't have those around? Okay.
Maybe I just didn't see
Okay.
it, but.
Well, I thought we found most of them except for one, but
Yeah, I'll go back and take a
Yeah.
look.
Yeah, one of
and
the
see if
ones that I had
One you had, I know we didn't have.
Word.
yeah.
I might also, when
Right.
we sign off on renting the pavilion, we do sign, there's a lot of paperwork that specifies around alcohol, so it might be worth just
Yeah.
reviewing that.
Yeah, just checking out on that. Okay, let's jump, John, you had a couple in terms of,
Well, I had 3, but they turned into 4.
Okay.
Because and they were all to do with the highway department, so working with Randall on it. He wanted to break out permits in a public way and permits for curb cutting.
okay,
So those became 2, driveway regulations and then the highway department fees. We went back and forth, and I turned over what we think is the final version, subject to feedback from the other select board members.
okay. Can you tell us any major changes? I mean, were the fees?
For the
or-
most part, it was just a couple wordsmithing where it said they will, you will submit 5 days. We changed that to shall, so to make it absolute.
Minor
He did
things.
go over the driveway regulations, and I do have a marked up version of that one, because that one's 5 pages to start.
Yeah,
And there was some more wordsmithing in there. We also added a section at the end, because the previous one was silent on commercial development. So it just refers it to the other departments within town that would have jurisdiction. You have to be in compliance with them.
okay. So we have both the modifications to driveways in town and,
Should be driveway regulations, permit curb cut,
yeah,
and then permit to open a public way,
right.
and then their highway department
Then the
fee.
highway department fees. Now, did any of these fees change or
He kept them the same.
kept them same? Okay. I do note that it says here, fees are doubled if the work is started without proper permits in place.
Correct.
So that's been an existing
I
policy?
think that's pretty standard within
Okay,
the building commissioner's realm.
okay. So these haven't changed too much, that's good. And I know we've just done the bylaw, obviously, on curb cuts, that just went through special town meetings, so hopefully there's nothing contradictory here.
No, it's just how to apply for the permit.
Okay. And then I think the other one we did, I don't think we've done it yet. There's another one, he was reviewing our current bylaw on temporary repairs to driveways or something, Temporary repairs, I don't have to look at it, but he would know better if there's anything that's
And I'm happy to
not consistent.
sit down with Randall and do a time study as far as the time allotted to actually shall we say, process these permits.
Yeah, okay.
The only thing I saw on that one was, we're talking about the driveway one, right?
Yep, go ahead.
Just look at number 9 in terms of just a couple
On the driveway one?
typos. Couple typos. Otherwise, it looks very complete.
I have to say, I did not have the Word version, so I had to hand type this.
Yeah. What do you see? in
For me,
number
that's a
9?
milestone.
Number 9, it says in a forward direction as opposed to an a forward direction, right?
Oh, yeah. In a forward
And
direction.
it's twice, it's.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got it,
Oh, yeah, yep.
yeah. All right. Yeah, just a little bit on 8 too. Superintendent may permit additional curb cuts were deemed, so something's missing. That were deemed, maybe? That were deemed reasonable or necessary? Maybe just a couple little words here and there may be missing, yeah. Okay, so basically those are not changing too much, which is good. All right. Rini, I know you hadn't had a chance to do a lot of yours yet, so. but
Yeah,
if
I
you
have
wanna-
3 of them, but I just wanted to bring something to your attention, actually. Let me just bring it up.
Yep.
One of the ones that I have is proposed procedures and policies and regulations for the select board. And so I just wanted you to know that it says that it's supposed to be reviewed annually. I think we can look at that. It says, wait, maybe every 2 years might be enough, especially since it says July through September. So any new board member is going to come on and immediately be updating policies. That might happen with a stagger no matter what. But the other thing I just wanted to say is that all policies and regulations, current policy says, all policies and regulations before the select board shall be placed on file for 10 days before any discussion or action shall be taken. The time period is meant to allow departments, public, and the board to sufficiently review each policy and regulation for inconsistencies and concerns. During this review period, a copy of all new policies shall be made available in the town clerk's office and on the town website. So when we get to the point where we have a draft, we may need to post it. If we agree with that, we continue with this 10-day review period, that'd be in the town clerk's office and on the webpage for 10 days.
So maybe after our next meeting, if we get to a point where we're accepting these in final form, then that would be the trigger to get them posted. Yeah.
I just want to check with Ed. So this policy is just pretty simple, and it's really whether the select board wants to make any amends to the current policy. But purchase order, is that something I should talk to you and Bradley about? And the traffic control, do I talk to Chief Illingsworth or Randall about?
Probably traffic control would be, yes, Randall and Ian.
Well, I had asked them if they had a original Word copy, because that's the one that's not available in Word, and both of them get back to me and said no. So I'll just see if they have any recommendations for the policy.
Well, actually, I think Chris and I may have a recommendation for that, is we may want to amend that to actually define the school zone for Norris School.
Okay.
That would be on the traffic.
All right, I'll follow up with you about them.
And then on POs, yeah, you can follow up with either Bradley or I, because actually from some of the conversations we've had at the select board meetings, we actually had a presentation this morning on a third financial software system. And one of the things I specifically asked them, because they went over it, was did their quote include both an encumbrance and a purchase order module?
Okay.
I think we should go back in that direction.
Yeah. We don't actually have actual purchase order system, do we now, in place? I mean, or not?
It hasn't been used since before I got here.
Yeah.
My understanding is that our system actually does have the ability to do that.
So it may be on paper, but it's never been really implemented as such. So it's probably time to get that more formalized, I wouldn't think.
All right, I'll follow up with you then and have them before the next meeting.
Good, okay. A couple for me, hearings before the select board, you've got those. Unfortunately, you'll see some shading if you're looking at it on the hard copy, or it was in color online. I don't know why, somehow I thought the color comes through, but I guess it doesn't. I should just bold these things. The hearings before the select board, I didn't have too many other comments or changes to recommend here, except going through and changing Board of Selectmen to Select Board. Most of this looks like it's all okay in terms of how a public hearing would be carried out, but we can certainly look into that in a bit more detail. I had one question myself just on number 3, where it talked about the introduction of an applicant and the proposed plan. It talks about chair will introduce the applicant will state his or her name and address and describe the proposal to the board and public. All speakers shall sign in with name and address and further their position as in favor or as in opposition. And my question was, well, what if they just want to speak about it and get more clarification? I'm thinking, like when we had our poll hearing, we had those residents that were here that just really wanted clarification. It wasn't that they were necessarily for it or against it. They just wanted to understand more. So that was just one minor thing I thought we could tweak on that. But most of the hearing procedure looked like it was all okay and followed. I went into the Selectmen's Manual and other places to look for things and didn't come up with anything that looked like it was very, very different. So I'm pretty much sticking with a few minor wordsmithing things on the hearings one. The one about fuel efficiency, I'm working on but didn't get finished because that's one I want to be very sure. There's some new language that has to tie into our green communities DOER grant, and I want to be sure that we don't put out a policy that's contradictory to that. And one of the things I was having trouble finding is the current listing of fuel efficiency, so miles per gallon. What's the minimum miles per gallon for a two-wheel vehicle, a four-wheel drive, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm still looking for that, but I will hopefully find it sometime soon before the next meeting. The one I did work on, and you've got it in your packets, which I think is a bit of a change, is the meal reimbursement policy. And this would be, I've beefed it up quite a bit in the first paragraph with a policy statement, and a couple of recommendations in terms of changes in allowance. This had not been done. The original adaptation for this, adoption of this policy was done in 2011. So this has not been updated in a long, long time and really was pretty scarce. It just said, meal reimbursement will be X, but it doesn't give any context. So I tried to put in here some information about that we would provide employees with a meal allowance while on official business. Employees must obtain pre-approved written authorization from their supervisor to attend a conference, training, or similar event in order to claim reimbursement for meals. Department heads must notify the town administrator ahead of time of their intended absence to attend such events. Reimbursements will be made only for expenses consistent with the approved dates and locations, obviously, of such an event. Expenses paid directly to the vendor must not be duplicated. Reimbursement is not allowed if meals are included in a conference fee, for example, or a training fee. If lunch is included, then obviously you can't claim for a meal reimbursement. And only meal receipts for the designated town employee will be accepted. So should there be a case where somebody takes a family member or friend or something with them or whatever, that person can't claim a meal. Obviously, it's only for the town employee. The one-day allowance for a conference was, I believe, 15, and I'm proposing 18. The overnight was 10, 15, and 25 for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I'm just proposing from 10 to 12 on breakfast, 15 to 18 on lunch, and 25 to 30 on dinner. And the town won't reimburse, obviously, for any alcoholic beverages, and employees must submit original receipts to the town accountant within 2 weeks of return. So that's beefed it up quite a bit of what there was. So I'm willing to hear any commentary and feedback. I did research a couple of other towns, and so some of this is pulled from a couple of other examples.
I would suggest that,
Yep,
sorry.
right. Sorry. No, go ahead.
I would suggest at the end on the reimbursement process,
Yep.
that, what you have there is fine. If it's 2 weeks, it's 2 weeks. But then add a sentence that, after 2 weeks, you forego this.
Okay.
So we don't want somebody 3 months later in the next fiscal year
Yeah.
coming in with a fistful of receipts.
Okay.
I mean, you've got a 2 week window, make it a 4 week. I don't care what the window is.
Sure, okay.
You make that, but if you go beyond that,
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
I was also going to say that there probably should be a separation in terms of anybody who's a union or contract employee, because I know that there might be something different in that.
Yeah.
And second,
Yeah, okay. So this would apply to non-union employees then? Or how would we say that? What would you want to say?
would apply to employees that don't have a similar provision under
their contract, yeah. So because some of them do revert to the personnel policies if it's not specified.
Okay, without a provision.
And speaking of that, I'm looking at the rules and regulations right now, compensation plan. It says, I don't think there's anything. It says coverage policy, merit increases, interim wage increase, promotion.
No, I don't think there's anything in there. In a lot of places, I mean, I know at a federal level, it's often just part of a travel policy, and it's, and frankly, I mean, we got away from meal allowances years ago. It's just a flat amount for per diem for the day, and so that changes.
Is it worked into some existing employment contracts?
I didn't go back and check.
Remember, there is some, it's more of, for example, if somebody, I know the police contracts, if they end up doing an extra shift, they get covered for meals. But I don't know if it's for conferences or that sort of thing.
Yeah, okay. All right, so basically it's for employees without provision for such allowances in their contract or.
There's a meal reimbursement policy on page 57 in the rules and regulations of the town.
Meal one?
Yeah, on page 57.
Page 57?
Want me to
Yeah, please.
read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me get down there.
Because I had looked for it and I didn't see it. Maybe I don't have the right PQB.
I'm hoping this is the last. I mean,
It's the
John would probably.
PQB handbook, is that what you're
57,
looking at?
yeah.
Okay, I may not have the right one then.
I just have a little thing. I would just either add a semicolon or a period in the second to last sentence. Expenses paid directly to the vendor must not be duplicated. Reimbursement is not allowed if meals are included in paid conferencing. Instead of the comma, I would do a semicolon or
Thank
period.
you. And Go ahead, Rini. Yeah.
Employees who are authorized to travel status to conduct official business on behalf of the town, including attendance at authorized training, conferences, and symposiums, will require overnight travel, which require overnight travel. This is who it's the policies for. Policy, meal reimbursements will be limited to no more than the following, including taxes and gratuities. Expenses incurred in excess of these limits will be at the employee's expense. Breakfast 10, lunch 15, dinner 25.
Right.
Employees must submit original itemized receipts for employee only with their reimbursement request. No itemized charge slips will, non-itemized charge slips will not be accepted. Town of Southampton will not reimburse employees for the purchase of alcoholic beverages.
Right, yeah. So that's basically the existing old policy. So as this got updated, we would have to do some changes in the personnel handbook as well.
Do we need a select board policy, though, if it's covered in that handbook already? Because anybody that doesn't have a collective agreement, collective bargaining agreement,
Wouldn't be
fall by
following that, right?
Unless there was specific language in their employment contract, right? So is it redundant?
Well, does the also cover, like, does this cover, like, volunteers, like people on committees and commissions? Or does that cover, you know what I'm saying? Like, people who are in open space committee who go for conferences and whatnot? Does this apply to them?
Well, good point. I mean, because I definitely, the preamble that I read is more than what that talks about in terms of, just it has to have pre-approved written authorization and notify your supervisor and all that stuff. I don't know that that is in there, so I was trying to make that a bit stronger.
Or is this just, this is, oh, I'm sorry, yeah. this
Yeah,
is
but,
just
and I guess,
employees.
whether we wanted to leave the allowance, the amount at the same, the total amount, I think at the time would have been, overnight would have been 50, right, I believe? And so
Doesn't
mine,
specify overnight.
the overnight would have been 10, 15, 25, right?
It's 10, 15, 25 for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Right, so that's a total of 50 for the day? Right. And so what I was recommending changing it to, because this hadn't been changed in over 10 years, was 12, 18, and 30, which puts it at $60, including tax and gratuities. So whether we make a policy or well, I don't know, one way or another, it seems like we ought to decide if we want to change a meal allowance, I guess. Are the amounts sufficient? I don't know how often we use it, how often it's,
I don't think the
amount.
amounts are sufficient personally.
No, I don't either, personally. I mean, I think it's time.
Not in the old one, no, not
No.
anymore.
Yeah, so I mean, I would favor, increasing the rates, whether,
Should that come from the PQB to us, or,
I don't know.
I mean, usually that is approved by the,
Well, we could, PPP could certainly take it up at the request of the select board and review it.
Yeah, okay. But I think a couple things we've done, when we've had a couple small adjustments, we've gone in and changed
Yeah.
a portion, have we not, of the,
Right.
of the handbook?
Yeah, but
Yes.
you
But
still have
that's-
to have that public hearing
Right.
process.
Right.
Exactly, yeah.
Basically, I wrote it, I recommended it. Select board asked to send along to the PPPB. Yes, we posted it with
We
all
hold the public
rules and
hearing, no one
regulations.
attends.
Yeah, had the public hearing.
All right. So would the ideas be perhaps not to have this as a standalone policy, but just maybe think about beefing up the wording in the PQB one, or?
Yeah, I'm going to have to answer Joyce's question. I'm going to have to go back and look, because there is a section in the manual that says, it talks about all elected and appointed individuals of the town not compensated.
Yeah, because I mean,
See whether or not, so that would be a volunteer on a committee that's chosen to go to this conference.
right, if somebody had to go to a conference,
I think this,
Because I don't
I think
understand
that
why
would
there
cover
would
them.
be two different policies for meal reimbursements unless that this originally was to cover
a different audience.
yeah.
yeah,
It kind of leads you into thinking that maybe this should be part of that travel policy. And yes, we need both,
yeah.
even if you combine them, yeah.
And we don't actually have a separate travel policy,
I don't think so. I will take a look. I will look through.
It's not listed on the-
Yeah,
on that
well,
list
not on the select boards. I will actually take a look. I don't think there's one in the rules and regulations
Oh,
either, but I'll
okay.
take a look. But
All
And
right.
then the only other thing I will just say about this is, you talk about the town of Southampton provides employees with a meal allowance while on official business. Then under allowance, it says one-day conference training, lunch, $18. Well, what if I have to go to a hearing or a meeting that's not a conference or a training?
Okay. So that needs to be enlarged of some sort, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Enlarged or defined some other way.
I think that's different, though.
I mean, a conference training / meeting, official meeting, I don't know. Maybe. I think, yeah, and it was really bordering, I was teetering between that and the travel policy, because for me, normally in a travel policy, you only get a meal if you're out of your duty station for X number of hours, right? And so that's a whole other, whole other animal, which I wasn't going to tackle out of this, but that might help provide some clarity. But okay, well, we'll do a little chit chatting in between time and see what makes sense. But I can send this to you in Word, John, if you want, and then if you guys want to take it up at PQB.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I think the point that John raised about the, there should be a time limit so that this isn't just floating around, we get late reimbursements.
Right.
But I think in a few occasions, people are waiting for a copy of their credit card statement. Not that you can't go online and get that, but that was, I think, one of the holdups that might, work against the 2-week thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I might say 30 days.
Okay. All right.
And it's null and void after 45 or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable
Okay.
time.
I think they could still put in their receipt. Well, yeah, okay, maybe not. You still want them to file it pretty timely, but maybe 2 weeks is too.
Verification that you paid it.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, but you do want it timely, and people not sitting on them.
Right, because a lot of times I think if you're, people have gotten, maybe we're going to go back to this, but I think most people have gotten away when they're traveling from paying cash. Right, so you're getting that instant receipt right there that has the XXS, your credit card number, and whose name's on it.
Yeah.
All the materials right there really pay it. And if you pay cash, then it's
Yeah.
going to be a cash receipt. Because I don't think you need to submit your credit card statement blocked out. You know what I mean?
I would say this, to mimic our, reimbursement policies, if, I go out and buy whatever the heck it is and bring it in and want to be reimbursed for it, and I've got that receipt, but it says, credit card on it or whatever, I'm going to require our town accountant to say, okay, prove that that's their credit card. Where's the backup credit card statement showing the payment?
Other than their name being on the receipt? Right, because when you get that credit card receipt, it gives the last 6 digits of the card number. It says who the card is issued to.
Like if you pay
Last 4 digits.
Yeah.
And I don't ever remember getting one that has my name on it.
Like if you
Stop
paid
paying cash.
Yeah.
Take a look at the next one.
It has
I'm going to use a
Yeah.
debit card.
It has your name on the bottom.
Yeah, usually it has something, when you pay at a restaurant or something, it's got your name on it somewhere. Yeah, it does. Okay. well,
But I don't care if it's 6
Yeah.
weeks. I'm just saying there should be a time limit.
Yeah, no, there has to be a time limit.
Definitely.
Yeah,
And not everybody wait until June 30th.
exactly.
To
No.
submit all these
We
things.
got it.
When we had a little discussion about this earlier, I told Chris in one of my early employment things, we had some people that used to like to, it wasn't the meals, but they sat on their mileage till the end of the year. So it
Yeah.
became like a giant bonus check or whatever.
Yeah.
And there were several times that they did that, and guess what? There wasn't enough money left in the account.
Did you do anything? Yeah.
So yes, we ended up having to do a travel and
Yeah.
meal thing just to take care of that.
Right. And just before we leave this, are we generally in favor that, upping the dollars, a couple bucks here and there is reasonable?
I don't have a
Yeah.
problem with it.
Yeah, I'm fine with
I think
That sounds
yeah, I
reasonable,
think
what you
that's
came up with, yeah.
Okay.
pertinent to
Not
cover
a
the
lot, but,
inflation in
it's
that
something,
period.
yeah. Okay. All right, good enough. So we will keep on working on those a little bit, try to meet if you need, if your policy requires you to meet with, Randall or Ian or anybody, Ed, please try to do so and come back with a draft for our next meeting. And try to get those into Ed the week, as we get ready for the handout. So Judy's been doing great, and we've been trying to do for the most part, getting the packets out to you guys on the Thursday before the select board meeting. So to the extent you can get anything into Ed by Wednesday night, Thursday morning, that would be much appreciated. So it's in the package, okay? All right, moving on. Assistant Town Accountant update, Ed.
Yes, and I'll just let you know that Bradley and myself have a couple of follow-up second interviews scheduled this week, along with some practical exercises for the candidates to do.
Because you've had about, what, 5 candidates you've interviewed, something?
I think that's probably about right.
And
so.
you've got 2 that are kind of in your top list right now? Or?
Yes, we have 2 that are coming in actually tomorrow and to go through this.
Good, yeah.
So
Great.
I'm expecting that we will probably go through that. We'll do hopefully have a successful candidate we would like to move forward with. They'll do the background check and probably have a decision to fill out the PCF paperwork next week.
Can we assume that neither one would have to give notice to a current employer then, from what you're saying, or that may delay?
Yeah, but it would delay it a couple of weeks.
Yeah, okay.
With the efficient hiring system we have through PCF, that might take longer than the 2-week notice. So.
All right, well, at least that's encouraging information. I'm glad you found a couple of candidates that look like they're serious about the job, and thanks for you and Bradley for going through the interviews. I'm glad we've at least got something that we can work with, and I think the idea of a practical test is good. I made the mistake once of hiring somebody for some level of a financial position and realized only after the fact that they didn't really know Excel very well. I was like, oh, bad mistake.
And I was very careful not to use the word test. I will say it's an practical exercise.
Sure, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, and I think, personally, I think in that job too, I think Bradley has shown that too, but you definitely need somebody who's detail-oriented. You've got somebody who's really looking at, the numbers and does it all match? And so I think that's real, to the extent you can test for that, I think that's a great idea to have some practical exercises.
Yeah, well, the practical part, without giving a lot of information away, is items like what do these invoices in total going into this account total to, and how much money is actually available to pay them. There are some little pieces where the account information might be incorrect.
Yeah, right.
That they have to see if they check it and find
Sure.
it. So, yeah, there's little pieces there. And then there are little pieces of, okay, use the formulas in Excel to add these up and whatever.
Right, okay, sounds good. All right, a couple more as we keep on going down here. So, next on the line is the recruitment process for the fire chief due to retirement. So, as we all know, we have the fire chief who's handed in his resignation effective at the end of June, and so I really wanted to talk about, just brainstorm some ideas about how we might go ahead and start a process, whether we have a subcommittee of this group that kind of takes a lead and tries to figure out who else should be involved, or, I'm open to ideas. I have nothing.
So we did have a pending item on this. Did we get clarification in writing from KP Law on what
About the strong chief?
what the written difference is between the two?
I have some, so I will say, surface information on that. I don't think it's in the detail.
I don't think we have the
John would
detail
like,
that we were asking for. So we might need to just see if they can provide it, or wherever we find that regulation.
They did provide the information of a vote if we, for an article, if we wanted to change that.
Yeah, okay, that would be good. So any ideas? I think last time, from what I was able to gain from past history looking through files, it looks like it was an internal, not internal, but a town committee. It wasn't an outside search firm or anything like that. It was a town committee. I gather it was some select board as well as town residents that were involved, and obviously somebody or other from the fire department ought to be involved. But I'm open to a suggestion of how you would like to proceed, but I think we really need to get moving on this sooner rather than later. So any thoughts? Anybody that's done this before in other communities or other ways?
Well, yeah, I've been on other searches where you, like, in that case, it was for police chief, but, you have fire chief, so the fire department, but you don't utilize a member from the internal fire department. You go to a neighboring community, or even potentially farther away. And get one of those fire chiefs or a deputy to sit in on it. or potentially a retired member, again, outside the department. So they don't necessarily know who all the players are. I'm not even sure if part of the process would be determined out if there are any internal candidates who apply when the
Yeah.
job's posted.
Yeah, I
But-
don't know. I haven't talked to John about whether he has any internal candidates that he knows about. But
I'll be happy to talk to him.
we can ask, at least find that out too, while we're talking about it. But, would someone like to volunteer to sort of lead a subcommittee on this?
Well, tentatively, I don't have an objection to doing it, but just to be clear, though, my thought is that mirroring other communities, and this subcommittee goes out, does the whole vetting process, comes back, I would think, then comes back with, the question would be how many candidates, or just a final recommendation, and then it's up to the whole select board to cast the deciding vote.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it the select board, or is it the person that person reports to, which would be the town administrator? Would we vote to endorse somebody, and then it becomes the vote of the town administrator, or since it's
I would
a
say.
direct report?
I would say with both the police chief and the fire chief, that appointing authority rests with the select board.
Right.
Well, they're the one, whether we sign the
To a point-
contract.
To a point, but then they
Right.
get day-to-day, then the
Right.
TA gets day-to-day oversight.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it would be a good idea
Direction.
for us to determine how many people should be on a committee,
Yeah.
recruit, I would imagine we would open it up to a department head in town, possibly, if you're offering, John, appreciate that, town administrator, fellow department head, fire chief from another community, and then an at-large member, or
Yeah, I get just wording, I'm wordsmithing here, but I would say a member of command staff from another committee. Because you go to these bigger towns, Northampton, Amherst, a deputy fire chief,
right.
I think would suffice.
Yeah, I think that's a good
Versus having to
idea.
be the full chief, or even if, Ed pulls some strings and gets West Springfield.
Okay. All right, so someone from command staff.
From an outside,
Outside
department.
community, outside
Command
department.
staff.
Right. Command staff, okay.
Select board, town administrator, I think a fellow employed or department head.
so that would be 4.
And then maybe a person general.
A
The thing
resident.
is, if it's too big, then it's going to be hard to coordinate meetings, and we need to kind of move regularly on it.
Yep.
But I like the idea if we can solicit one community member,
Yeah, I think we should, at least, yep.
at least.
Yep, at least, yeah. So 1 or 2 community members? I think it'd be hard if it was more than 6, though.
Yeah, and it's
Total.
really, they're acting as a screening committee. They're going to put
Right,
together a
right,
job description,
exactly,
send it out there,
Yeah.
do the screening.
Yeah. Yeah,
It probably, again, police chief everything remains confidential until you get to the final recommendation that you're pushing forward.
Right.
Move to the final in front of the select board,
Yeah.
correct.
so would this committee do interviews as well?
In executive session,
Yep.
yeah. And then eventually only, I guess that would be, what's the charge? 1, 2, or 3 candidates come forward, and the committee does rank them, doesn't rank them, just says, that's getting into the charge.
Okay. But it wouldn't be the entire select board interviewing in executive session, it would be,
No, through the screening, because then once they get to the select board, then it becomes a public session,
right,
and it'd be public interviews. So it'd
Yeah.
be a different, and then that would all be
Right.
open to the public to watch.
right.
At that point, I would hope it would be narrowed down to only 1 or 2.
Yeah, I'd say maybe 2. I think 1 is, I don't know, I'd rather have an idea of a choice.
Probably going to be 2 or 3.
Yeah,
2 or 3
Yeah.
at the most, I mean,
Yeah, 2, no more than 3.
So town administrator, select board member, department head, and command level fire, and 1 to 2
1 to
community
2,
members?
1 to 2 town residents, okay, all right. And they would be, well, we could work that out, but they would be responsible for,
Reviewing applications, screening. So it would be starting with probably job description and reviewing that and so forth?
yep.
Well, actually,
Hence the
it's-
strong chief, weak chief, which
Yeah.
Yeah,
direction are we
right.
going with?
Starts with that
I'd be
one-
very
yeah.
interested in getting that information too, if we can get that sooner rather than later.
Right. Which direction are we going to go in, exactly? What those duties entail, what the difference is between the two.
Right.
So we really understand that. Okay, screening and recommending the top 2 to 3. to the select board? Oh, sorry, we did say interviewing, yes? Or we didn't?
Yeah, well, the screening, screening would do it preliminary, first round
Applications,
interviews.
interview,
First round interview. And
And
recommendations.
then, right, once we made our recommendation, each of the, whoever we're moving forward would sign off, knowing that their name would be made public.
So recommend top 2 or 3 at the most to select board, right?
Yep.
Okay, well, we can,
And then the select board probably just have a standalone meeting just for that.
do you want to make that announcement at a department head meeting if anyone is interested in being on the committee?
I can, yes.
yeah, let's have one.
And then if we can publicize the 1 to 2 community members, if they're interested in being on a subcommittee to
Right.
recommend a new fire chief.
Right. We can put that word out and have people send in, would they fill out a volunteer application?
No, I would say that
Just contact Ed.
Just contact you.
for that, yeah, it's a letter of interest.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, thank you. Let's work on that. In the meantime, so I think if we can possibly do that for the next meeting, just to understand the definition of the strong chief, at least so that we can really tidy up the job description a little bit or give it to people. But, so I think I had a volunteer with John, volunteer to do this. You
Yeah,
okay
and
with
then,
this?
yep, that's fine. And then I think the committee worked through February, March with the intent of reporting out by the 1st of April. So in theory, somebody might be on board by May 1st, and then they could spend,
Yeah,
if the budget allows,
would be nice to have
spend
some
some
overlap.
overlap time with John.
Would be nice to have overlap. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yep, okay. All right, so what we can do, what we might do is just try to tackle a little bit of, just lay down these parameters so that you've got those to start with, and then we'll go from there. Is that at least a beginning at the moment? All right, that's great. Perfect, thanks. All right, a couple more things. This one may take a bit. So, where are we? Sorry. Let me come back to the cannabis funds here for a minute. Let's keep on going with personnel type stuff. The next one down, really, though, audit recommendation. We've got a possibility for the new contract for our auditing for the FY '22 fiscal year, correct?
I have to send out the actual valuation form
Okay.
to be filled out by
Okay.
the three other members of my team.
Okay, so they've got to still do that, so that's not ready yet.
No.
Okay,
I'll do that this week.
all right.
Well, we're talking about the audit. We having a presentation soon from Melanson?
For the 31st, she's on board? Yep,
Okay, thanks.
yep. So we'll have the auditor.
Sorry, is that what you were
Yeah, no, I was just going to point out that our, what do they call them? They don't call them principals, but our primary point person has left that firm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Tanya,
Oh, yeah?
Okay.
so.
Well, we have them scheduled for the 31st to come in and talk about the audit, so if anybody wants to, maybe it'd be good to send the audit report around again?
Yeah.
So that people have a chance to go through it, because it's really certainly vague in my mind now in terms of some of the things that they came up with, and the audit report and the management letter, and things like that. So we've got it, okay. So let's have that certainly for the next meeting, okay?
I don't know if we already did this, but if we didn't, could we just, at courtesy, let Finance Committee know?
I did.
So we did it, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, and then next on the docket is Town Administrator Evaluation Process, and I will come back to the other one. You had in your packets tonight a copy of Ed's current contract as well as the blank form for the evaluation. So that is the form to use, and it would be for January through December of '22. And what we'll do, I think, is what we did last time, is each of us go ahead and work on that evaluation individually. I'd like to ask that people could get those back into me for the next meeting. Is that doable, or is that too much? We can push it, we can do it to the next meeting in February, if that's too much. I don't want to overburden people, and I know we've all got many things.
So complete the evaluation and send it to you
To me, by the 31st, which we wouldn't have any discussion at that time, but
Right.
if I had it by the 31st or the 1st,
Then you could turn it around.
February 1st, and then I would try to compile,
Okay.
consolidate and compile, and have that hopefully for that
Okay,
upcoming meeting, maybe, with a little bit of luck.
yep.
Okay. And Ed is going to be working on his self-evaluation. In the meantime, that will feed into that as well. But I can't remember now, did we?
So we usually have gotten the self-eval before we do the.
Before you start on that, right? Yeah, okay. So there's a question. Good point. Well, you can be jotting down your thoughts.
Yeah, okay.
Jot down your thoughts, at least for the 31st.
When is,
I mean, maybe
when
not-
is your
maybe
deadline
it's
as
not
far as the
final, but-
self-eval?
What's that?
When's your deadline for the self-eval? To
I
get it
don't
out to
have
us?
one, but I'm gonna say it right straight out. I am so buried right now
Yeah,
that my own self-eval is not on the top of my list.
Not the high priority, that's wrong.
Sorry.
Yeah. Thing is, we've got to get going on it so we figure out what we are doing eventually here, because we have a contract that right now expires at the end of June, so we have to
Well,
understand.
so just on that point, I would draw your attention
Yeah.
to page 2 of the
Okay.
contract under employment, that first paragraph. In broad strokes, I will say, we don't really have a June deadline. We have a March 31st deadline. Which I certainly hope
Well,
we would
yes,
we would
in fact-
exercise, but if we fail to say anything by March 31st,
Right.
it automatically renews for 6
Right,
months.
That's correct, that's correct.
Yeah.
So that was part of my goal, to try and get an evaluation done sometime in
I say we skip right to negotiations.
February.
And then we'll just go ahead and stick then to giving the feedback by, shoot for the 31st.
I'll shoot to have my self-evaluation back to you by the 31st.
Okay, all right, that would be helpful. And then, because then that could still be shared, and that would still allow for time to maybe modify that, and if we had to,
Okay,
put it off to the second meeting in February, or have a special meeting even.
Yep.
We could do that, okay? Let's do that, because I know there's lots of different, there's so many requests for quotes and proposals and stuff to get out on the street. I know I've had 2 or 3 that Ed is ready to hit me over the head with, that are, from various committees. We've got lots of contracting to get done, and there's a lot of procurement activities right now, let alone the budget stuff. We won't even touch that right now, but, so let's do your best to get at least a draft, I guess, into me by the 1st of February, and we'll see where we are by then, okay? And if I have Ed's information ahead of time, I will give that to you. But like last time, we compiled the scores and comments, and then eventually went back to a public meeting to go through the evaluation. Should we enter into any kind of negotiations, that would be a separate executive meeting. Okay? All right, with that said, all right, thank you very much. Now going back up. So the process to establish the use of the community benefit payment for the substance abuse prevention. So on our cannabis, let me just pull this back up. On our cannabis use agreement here, our host community agreement, of course, it's just canceled out on me. So we have, the agreement was, we entered into, I just pulled up, we entered into it in August of 2019. Amazing, again, how much time has flown by. This is a 5-year initial agreement, if I'm not mistaken. And we have 2 or 3 things that we get out of this agreement. But, so one is the community impact fee, which is an amount equal to 3% of the gross annual sales of the facility. And that actually does go, right now anyway, for a period of 5 years, and then it fades away. And those are due to be quarterly payments. Last time I looked, we had some $45,000-ish, I believe, in that. In addition, we do get the taxes, right, Ed? That's a separate line for
Correct.
sales tax or whatever. That comes into our coffers, which is, again, somewhere right around,
It's 3%.
yeah, so that too was around, I think around the $40,000 range when I looked at it. So those monies are monies that are not necessarily restricted in terms of how, well, the community impact one is somewhat restricted, right? It was supposed to be looking at how payments for road or fire protection or Board of Health inspections or anything that was causing our town people to do extra stuff because the facility is there, we had to justify that, which is where
Correct.
we have, in order to use any of that. So if we don't justify that, that just sits still for now. We don't use it, we can't draw down it for any other purpose, right?
You can, but I'm going to preface that also by saying that I don't know how much longer that will be around with
Right,
the
other
recent
communities.
state legislation and now the Cannabis Control Board coming down with their own rules and regulations.
Right.
So that the impact fee very possibly
Might go
probably
on.
going to disappear.
Right.
So, but the impact fee and the tax revenues basically flow through the general fund,
Right.
the DO1 fund, and are used in the operating budget.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Because we would have received some monies, each of, the 19 to 20, 20 to 21, 22 to...
Well, even though, I don't think it was until,
when they started, yeah. I
uh,
forget when they actually,
yeah,
we signed this in August of 19, but
Yeah.
there was a delay before they actually got going and we got our first
right.
payments, but
I think it was like might have been 20 or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of pushing-
Let's say 21.
almost the fourth year of the agreement.
I think it was 21 when they actually
20,
opened up.
21,
Yeah.
22, 23. Oh, yeah, okay, maybe third year of agreement. Anyway, so right, and the community impact fee only goes for 5 years, even though the agreement, the host community agreement goes on longer. So there would have been some money, when I'm saying the 40,000, that's just what I've seen on the latest report, but there would have been monies from previous years, right? Or is that already carried over? Or we've used it?
It would not have been, I'm trying to think.
We would have
I don't
maybe,
think there would have been any, I think they opened in June of 21.
oh, really that late? Okay.
So probably the first set of
Okay,
impact fees would have been basically, actually the first quarter in 22.
okay, all right.
So,
Okay, I thought it was earlier than that, but we'll...
Really? I thought it was earlier than
Yeah,
that, too.
we can just double check that. But anyway, just to say that that's a separate thing. What we're trying to talk about tonight is the community benefit payment for substance abuse prevention, and that is $10,000 annually for the term of the agreement for providing, for the purposes of funding substance abuse prevention and mental health services in the town, but not limited to school substance abuse education and counseling services. And that's based on a calendar year. So with the money from the preceding year due to the town no later than February 1st. So we should be getting a new one soon, then,
Yeah, by February 1st.
by February 1st.
I'll have to go back and take a look. For
Shall be
some
based
reason,
on the
I-
calendar year,
Yeah.
with the payment for the preceding year due no later than February 1. But I believe we already have 10,000 anyway, I think I've seen in the book. So the question is how, and I think we all recognize that there is a situation in town. We know that we've had issues in town. We've certainly got, concern at the schools to do some education there, and they've got some funds to do that, maybe from a different way. But again, I would like to see us put something together that actually starts to activate this community benefit payment. And again, I would favor putting together a mini committee of people that would be most likely to be involved in doing some of this. So I would think certainly some of our first responders, whether it's not necessarily the fire chief or the police chief, but some of the first responders have had to deal with overdoses in town, I know. Certainly somebody from the school, perhaps, the Board of Health, whomever. So just some thoughts floating out there as to how we might, get a mini group together, again, to spearhead this, because I think the more we delay on doing something, it's just going to go down, the merry path of not getting done and keep on a pending list. So I'd rather have somebody who would want to kind of be the sort of the mini leader, I guess I would say, to think about pulling together people and have a first meeting and brainstorm some ideas about how this could be used, but open to suggestions.
Do you think, how strongly do you feel it has to have a select board member on that committee?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, I'd like to see someone pick up the ball
Yeah,
here.
not necessarily, but I mean,
I
I think
could envision us creating a charge and then, I think final approval has to be reserved by the
Yeah.
select board for the
Right,
money, but
right,
creating a
right.
charge that, this sounds like a Board of Health issue. Not that it's, okay, Board of Health, we want you to come up with a program, fund, and create it all. It's just,
Yeah.
need you to chair it and go out there and talk to your counterparts, whether it's the police chief, fire, ambulance, whatever, what's going up. I wouldn't know who to call up in Westhampton, where the high school is, to get all those, maybe Stephanie Foss from the school side.
Yeah.
But similar on the fire department, where we come up, hey,
Right.
we have this money, this is what it's for, this is what it can be used. We're looking for ideas. We're
Yeah.
giving you guys an opportunity.
Yeah, to take the lead on, no, I think
Yeah, and
that
they
would
have
be
the
great.
collaborative right now with Northampton, so they might be
Correct.
expanded opportunities there. So perhaps what we can do is, I was originally thinking, have an application on the website, let's simplify this,
Yeah.
appeal to people to try to give proposals for funding, but I think it's a better idea to, ask Francine as our representative to the Board of Health to bring it to the meeting and
Okay.
say, can you give us a recommendation?
Right.
Are you able to take the lead on this?
Right.
And
Okay.
pull together a group of people and make recommendations to us.
Okay. And that could include, not only a couple of folks from departments like I was suggesting.
Yeah.
Like I say,
School, police, and Board of Health
Yeah.
seem to be, and fire.
and fire, I think all, the EMTs and they're on the front lines. I mean, I think they're the ones that have probably had to deal with some
Yeah.
pretty horrific situations, and so they would be the most likely to be involved, but not to exclude others from the town that are very interested and committed and have some experience or just want to be involved. I mean, they can decide on how big they wanted to have the committee. But I think that would be good. So I would be in favor of that, and we could certainly just sort of, relay this information to Francine for whenever there's a next Board of Health meeting and have her lay out the idea and see what they think about it. But I'd like to get us moving on this.
Yeah,
It's
I
been
agree.
been too long. So that would be great. So if everybody's kind of in general agreement,
Yeah.
Yes.
we'll go with that notion. Great. That's all I wanted to do, is really just have just some clear idea of a process we might try to follow. So I'll jot down some things and we can share that with Francine. Okay.
Can I go back, can I go back to, hang on one second, can I go back to the ad evaluation thing?
Yes.
I know the form that we have is formatted and it's crazy. Did you send, does anybody, we have a copy, but it's not
It's not expandable?
electronic, right?
I think, it is.
I mean, it is available electronically, there's a lot of formatting annoyances to it, but it wasn't resent out electronically, was it? With the new dates that we're supposed to be evaluating him on? No?
It's in the package, the supplemental package that was sent out yesterday.
But that's a PDF. Is there a
Well,
editable one?
It's an edible one.
Okay,
Editable,
yeah.
editable.
Is it in it's in the packet?
Huh?
If
It's
not-
on Dropbox?
I'll double check.
Yeah,
If it's
we'll
not, I'll
forward it.
send it
Yeah,
all
no, we
to
need
you.
one that we can
In
write.
fact, I'll send it all to you anyway. then
We
you don't
can,
have
we
to
can
go
write in
looking
it,
for
yeah. I'm
Okay.
not sure, I didn't think it was a PDF, because I thought it was just a regular form, but I could be wrong on that.
Okay.
But I'll work with it and be sure we get that out, so we have the right one. But yeah, it's one that we can't do. Yes, Barbara, you had a question?
No, I have something to share.
Would you mind coming to the mic? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you have to. for the
You have to,
public.
sorry. Public meeting.
Pull the mic down so you can be
Yeah.
heard too, okay, Barbara?
Yeah, just give us your name and.
Barbara Simborski,
Finance Committee and.
Finance Committee, and 10 Golden Circle. When I was head of the business department in Holyoke High School, we started a program called Students Opposing Drugs and Alcohol.
That's sad.
And what we did was the kids, and they had to get their parents' permission, and we would take them to AA meetings and stuff like that, but they would not be seen, the kids who were listening to this stuff. And then they did skits down in the elementary schools to get the kids to not do drugs and alcohol. So it was an interesting program.
Yeah.
So if you wanted anyone to help with that, I would be willing.
That's nice, thank you. Good.
I think the key to these programs too, and I would hope the school and anybody involved would be, aware of this, but we just need to have evidence-based programs. We can't be recommending and funding things that haven't been proven to work. And I think when it comes to substance use and other similar programs, there's too many programs that are not evidence-based. They have never been proven to work, and yet they're continued to be used all the time. And I think that's where the problem is.
Right, yep, very good. Okay, thanks. And just to say, the form that was the evaluation form for the town administrator was a Word form, but it's not an expandable one. So it needs to be a bit more dynamic, I think. I'll check that, because it's limiting you to 3 lines or something of narrative. So to the extent we need to change it, I can go back and tinker with that a little bit. Okay, any other business that can't wait till the next meeting of January 31? Yes, Rini.
Question, 2 things. One is, so I just want to clarify that when it comes to these feasibility committee meetings, the public safety's already voted to not recommend the select board sending out a letter, a landowner letter, and then on Thursday is the senior center meeting.
Okay.
So I will just find out if they similarly would want to recommend it, but at the next meeting, if you could add a discussion about including an additional property, Bruce Coombs' property. And if anybody needs a copy, I think I sent everybody a copy of the letter that he had sent to Darcy Gasparini, who was a member of the Senior Center Feasibility Committee.
I didn't see it.
Oh, okay, I'll forward that.
Okay, so that was that was the senior center.
Well, it was originally because she works for a Realtor, and so
Right.
that was the access point. But nonetheless, it should, if the select board is deciding that they want to send a letter out and have the both feasibility committees consider this piece of property, then I just wanted to see what the committees recommended.
Okay.
So if you could just include it for the next agenda.
Okay.
I'll find out from the senior center group if they would like to have it be considered, and then you could at least have the recommendations from the 2 feasibility committees.
Okay.
And then the other thing is, we also talked at the last time when we appointed a public safety building committee member, the possibility of having associate members. We had 2 people interested, so I think we should probably pick that back up again also.
Yeah, I have it on the pending list here.
Okay.
So I'm just going to get to that in a minute.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oh, right. It
Okay.
is?
Yeah, it's on the pending,
Oh, okay, good.
bottom of the pending.
Yes.
Thank you. Yep, I didn't see that.
Okay, no other business? Let's see, anything in terms of, we've already got the voice over IP, any COVID update? I think we all know that it's still around.
It's
We've
still
all
out
been
there, and, yeah. Be
Still-
cautious.
Still facing people that are having difficulties, so keep on doing what you need to do to protect yourselves and your family. No signature, no PCFs tonight, no PRFs, no licenses, no warrants. We have minutes to approve. We have 3 sets of minutes for October 18, November 10, and November 22. Now, if people would like to take those individually or all together.
We have to get individually.
Individually, all right. Let's take October 18th. That was a shorter meeting. That was a meeting with the water commissioners, I believe.
We'll get to it.
Yep. I don't think I saw anything
I do have one thing.
on there, but
I just wanted to have something included in this, and I can send you the, this is under the discussion about the merit pay for the water department employee. I mentioned at this meeting that I wanted to have this included in the minutes, and it wasn't. So I would like to just read that. What I said is, there is nothing stopping the water commissioners from giving an additional merit raise, but I wanted it noted that this employee received a 2% COLA on July 1, an additional 6% wage adjustment by the select board for the FY23 budget on 7/1/23, and premium pay, one-time payment of the maximum of $3,000. So I wanted that included in the minutes, and that wasn't. So I will send that to you, Ed, if that can be passed along.
okay. Sure. Yeah. Do we want to wait on approving this until we have that language in there? Or do you want it?
I'll just I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with that particular edit, and I can send that.
All right, so we have a motion to approve with those changes. I'm stipulating what Rini just read is included in the minutes under that section.
I'll
Do you have a
second.
second? Okay. Any further discussion on that? All right. With that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstain?
Abstain.
John, you were absent? Yeah, okay. So three approve, 1 abstain. All right.
just sent that to you.
Yes, all right, very good, thank you. All right, and then minutes for November 10th. This is when we had our,
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for November 10th.
November 10th, yep. This was a
I'll second.
fairly lengthy meeting. I think this was one of our 4-hour meetings. All right.
I just wanted to mention something, and this is under the Highway Department. Randall did a wonderful job and a very extensive job explaining a lot about the fees, the tipping term, and all of that. And it's just unfortunate that it's not included in the minutes, because this is something that a lot of people online and elsewhere frankly complain about. And he did a wonderful job explaining all of that. And I just wonder, when these reports are filed, the minutes, are any of the written reports from these quarterly reports included?
I don't think they are, but they could be. I mean, there is a place on mytown.gov to add additional documents, so to the extent that Randall had something in writing that he was referring to, you know, we could take his notes and just add them as a separate document. But
Well,
you're right, and there was a lot too, actually, from the Board of Health as well and others. So, yeah, I mean, the reports of the Select Board get kind of summarized in these minutes,
Yeah.
whereas we've had, you know, a handout during the meeting that's been much more detailed. That's quite true.
Yeah.
But
Well, I just wanted to make that
Yeah,
comment. I
no,
mean,
that's
there's
fine.
not even much that refers to, because that was actually an addendum. It wasn't in his written report anyway. I mean, I had asked him, because there had just been, for the 20th time, a rabbit hole of discussion on Facebook about tipping, and he nicely explained that it's not giving tips to the,
right. And now there's signage over there that's made it a little bit more clear, I think, as well.
so that's fine. I just wanted to
Okay.
mention that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think, you know, we don't, the minutes get filed, but I don't believe usually a lot of our supplemental documents are put on mytown.gov, so people would have to watch the presentation, unfortunately. Okay, we have, did we have a
I
second?
have another thing, too, on page 5.
Oh, okay, sorry. Page 5, yeah.
The first line, Maureen Road noted concerns with N. I don't know what that is. Oh, I mean, I basically said that I'm concerned about us buying land, and then there's no time limit for turning it over. We're taking it off the tax rolls theoretically, and then we're not saying that it has to be moved within 5 years. And I think that was the point I was making.
Right.
But the way it's,
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
I think N is the section of the bylaw.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Yes.
So let's
Bylaw
clarify.
section.
With bylaw section N, let's add that little.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say, what does that mean? Okay, very good. Perfect. All right, that small change. All right, with that, bless you. Okay, I think we had a motion and a second, yes?
Yes.
All those in favor with that small change?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, very good. Minutes are approved.
And I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from November 22nd, 2022.
I'll second.
All right, any comments or corrections here? Again, this looked.
Yeah, there was one. You know, I might have just made a note of, just to ask a follow-up question about the elevator. I don't think there was a problem. It says
Oh, yeah.
necessary repairs are $10,000 and are supposed to be completed by December 31st, 2022.
Right.
And the short turnaround. So I don't think I had a question on the minutes. I just had a question on whatever became of that, if anything.
Yeah,
Nothing yet.
nothing yet? Yeah, okay.
We should probably discuss that at some point.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, it's made it to my capital list now.
It's on the capital list, yeah. Was this the one, too, where we had the, sorry. No, okay, never mind. All right, so we have that. Anything else? Okay, if not, could we have a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Minutes are approved. Very good. All right, that takes care of that. Let's see. So pending items, and we can either, you know, wait and take up, they're just pending. So the Old Town Hall, that's going to be one that's on the ARPA list. It's one of those that Ed and I have to meet on. We've already had a little bit of discussion on the East Street tip work, and that's going to be continuing. We put a couple things here just so we don't lose track of them, mostly the Green Community Grant, the Hazard Mitigation Plan update, the water property on, Water Department property on Upper Palmer Road. So some of these are just things that are out there that need to come to conclusion, and they're just here for that moment.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Are you going to go through them? You just referenced them?
I was just referencing them tonight, I don't think.
The Green Community Grant, that's the one that's involving, last week, we're waiting for one more evaluation,
Yes.
right? Any thoughts on when we might be able to wrap that up?
I will send them an email and ask them where that is.
Because I know it's going to become an issue on the Norris side.
Yeah, okay. All right. And then the other one that was on there was the associate members for the public safety building complex. And if we want to discuss that now, or we'll put it on the real agenda for the
Yeah,
next
that
meeting.
sounds, why don't we do that?
Okay, all right, that's fine. We'll put it up for the actual agenda item next time. So our next select board meeting is the 31st, and we need to just decide on February, which, should we follow schedule here, looks like it would be
14th and 28th?
yeah, actually, 14th and 28th.
Works for me, it jumps right over school vacation.
Does it?
So I'll be spending Valentine's Day with you all.
Oh, gosh.
Maybe it'll be a short meeting.
I'd rather spend it with my husband, frankly.
I think that's
We'll all
true.
bring our spouses, they can all sit in the audience.
14th, February 14th and February 28th. Okay, that's fine. And I think just one thing that's on my mind, just to wrap it up, I should have probably led with this, but if you recall, last time we had an issue, not an issue, but a presentation in open time about the cemetery policies during the wintertime. I just want to let the public know that that was resolved. The Cemetery Commission met and took care of the question that was brought before us. And that also during this time, we didn't have it in Ed's report tonight, but in the meantime, our building commissioner has received his building commissioner license. Ron Lauren is officially our building commissioner. He passed his exams and is on board. So those are just two loose ends that we should have mentioned probably earlier. So with that, I have no other commentary. If anybody would like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 9:10. Thank you.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.